Dragon Ball. Destroy Planet Vegeta with Frieza. Chapter 26. I said it would be impossible for such a coincidence. If you want to avoid it, it would be easy. And the direction of this unknown planet clearly has an intention. Looking at the image in the spaceship, Mu Chuan's expression was not good. If he was on the planet, he could easily destroy the other party. But in outer space, he is definitely at a disadvantage. At this time, he urgently hoped that he could have the skills of the Frozen Demon clan, at least he could survive in the vacuum of the universe. Then sailing in the universe can be said to be the best way to save his life. Now seeing the danger coming, he naturally couldn't sit and wait for death. He quickly put on his spacesuit and opened the cabin of the spaceship directly. A fierce wind blew. Even if he had millions of combat power, he was a little untenable at this time. Then, a very terrifying Qigong wave condensed in his hand. He didn't hold back at all. This was the first time he had ever made a full-strength move, but in outer space, his move did not seem as fierce as imagined. The Qigong wave blasted away. It flew out from the spacecraft and hit the unknown planet. A dazzling light flashed. A layer of outer shell was shed from the surface of the planet. But it was only a little smaller. Or to be more precise, a circle smaller, but it did not cause much damage to this planet. The speed was even faster. What the hell is this? There is no way to destroy it. Mu Chuan was puzzled. For anyone with a combat power of several thousand, it would be easy to destroy a planet. But now he has a combat power of up to 1,000,000, and the Qigong wave he used with all his strength can only make this unknown planet shed a layer of skin. Isn't this too weird? He didn't believe it, so he blasted out another terrifying Qigong wave. But at this time, what surprised him was that the unknown planet actually deviated from its orbit, and it was obvious that it avoided his Qigong wave. This made him more convinced. There is definitely something wrong with this unknown planet. Just as he imagined, in the center of this unknown planet, there lies a very large spaceship. There are many aliens in the spaceship. At the same time, these aliens are all wearing uniforms, but they are just cannon fodder. But the most important thing to pay attention to is that in the center of the spaceship, there is a very large figure sitting, with an extremely old face. A breath of old age. At this moment, this old guy slowly turned around. Slug. A super Namekian-like Piccolo. Namek also suffered an unprecedented disaster and was sent to other planets, but because he has an evil heart. It can be said that he is a complete demon. His behavior is just like that of a demon, but because he is getting older, he no longer has the strength he once had, so he doesn't run rampant in the universe. However, as he gets older, he feels a little panicked, so he is ready to go to Namek. The purpose is to find the Dragon Balls, so that he can regain his eternal youth and peak combat power. However, it is unfortunate that he met Mu Chuan on the road. When he saw Mu Chuan perform a Qigong wave, he immediately knew that the guy on the opposite side was not simple. Although he can't compare with him. But in the universe, it is already quite good to have such a terrifying combat power. Slag said slowly, I didn't expect to meet such a capable general on the road. His combat power must have reached millions. If I can recruit him as my subordinate, it will be even more powerful. When he saw Mu Chuan for the first time, he just wanted to recruit him as his subordinate. After all, he was also a king who dominated the universe. It was just because of his age that his combat power declined. Otherwise, ordinary people really couldn't catch his eye. After thinking about it, he said to Kaguga beside him, force him to land on the nearest planet. I want to have a good talk with him. In space travel, even he didn't dare to act easily. After all, there was no way to survive in a vacuum. Only on the planet can he move freely. Then, they forced Mu Chuan's spaceship to land. Mu Chuan felt extremely distressed at first. After all, she knew that the other party was definitely coming for him, but it was not easy to act in the universe. Seeing him getting irritated, the other party it seemed like he was going to force him to land on the nearest planet, which made his eyes light up. Although he didn't know who the other party was or what his purpose was. But this was exactly what he wanted. It's impossible for everyone he met to be like a monster like Frieza, right? At least his current combat power is already over 1,000,000, and it's still skyrocketing. It's estimated that in a short time, his basic combat power will be able to reach 2,000,000. If he can master the control of Qi, then he is very close to becoming a Super Saiyan. This is also the reason why he wants to reach Earth as soon as possible. Even if he can't practice on his own, he feels that he can control Chi by signing in. What's more, there are still many undiscovered treasures on Earth. At that time, the sign-in system can really play a role, instead of just adding combat power to him like now. The improvement of combat power is not fast. When the spacecraft landed on the nearest planet, the planet did not look so desolate at this moment, but it did not look like a civilized planet. There are large tracts of water, and only a few pieces of land that are like rocks, but these can almost be ignored. When landing on this planet, Mu Chuan quickly took off his space suit and walked down directly. I want to see what this meteorite of yours is. How dare you block my way? That meteorite also landed on this planet. At first, it felt like a meteorite, but as it landed on this planet, the surrounding rocks fell off one after another. Finally, a huge spaceship was revealed. When the hatch of the spaceship opened, rows of astronauts came out one after another, followed by several strange guys. When seeing these guys, Mu Chuan's expression on his face was obviously a little surprised. He felt that these guys' faces were so familiar. After all, he was also a traverser. His memory was not lost, and he felt that he had guessed the other party's identity in the dark. When that huge figure appeared, with a slightly old look, and stood at the hatch of the spacecraft, he was sure. Isn't this Slag? I was wondering why it was so strange, why did it feel familiar? It turned out to be the memory of my previous life. Isn't this the Namekian? Those so-called modules that those guys in Piccolo spit out are just like they were carved out of the same mold. This may be the exclusive skill of the Namekian. Mu Chuan did not forget to complain at this time. Even though he thought this skill was somewhat useful, he was extremely resistant. Who can stand it for ordinary people? He can't stand it. After complaining, he also looked at Slug formally, and he quickly recalled the information about Slug in his mind. Then, he suddenly became excited. This seems to be his most suitable opponent now. The evil Super Namekian. Possessing a very terrifying combat power, but because he gradually became old, his state is no longer the same as before, and his combat power naturally declined. But under normal circumstances, there are millions of combat power, not to mention that Slag has a jauntization. Once it is jauntized, it will surge 10 times, just like a Saiyan turning into a giant ape. Review the opponent's information. Mu Chuan became more confident. Although he was not completely sure, he knew that his current combat power was not worse than that of the opponent. And the opponent was not at its peak. It can just be used as a whetstone. The rest of the Saiyans have been honed by the mecha team, but his combat power is relatively strong, and there is no suitable opponent at all. Either it is too strong, or it is not enough to fill the gap. Now, Slag's appearance is just right. It's a bit interesting. I'm already excited. Mu Chuan's face can hardly suppress the smile. In the distance, Slag, who had just walked down from the spaceship, didn't know what Mu Chuan was thinking. When he walked down slowly, a strong breath suddenly burst out. Unbridled gushing. The whole planet began to tremble. Then, only his old voice was heard. Warrior sailing in the universe. I, the Demon King Slag, see that you have some strength. How about becoming my subordinate? This king will lead you to rule the entire universe. At that time, you will have everything you want, power, status, strength, immortality, all in your hands. How? If you want to recruit powerful subordinates, you must first have strong strength. Therefore, Slag took the lead in showing his terrifying aura, and the millions of combat power were fully demonstrated. Mu Chuan was slightly stunned. He was still curious about why Slag forced him to stop. Is it because of this? What's wrong with these guys? Whenever they see someone who is a little bit strong, they want to put him under their command. No wonder they all want to be the emperor of the universe, they all have the same problem. He couldn't help but complain, because Frieza and other guys were the same, they all had this problem. At first he was very puzzled. He had no direct or indirect hatred with the other party, even if the other party was a Super Namekian, but what did it have to do with him? Unexpectedly, the other party actually wanted to take him in as a subordinate. That made sense. However, after he figured it out, a hint of sarcasm gradually appeared on his face. Just you. I'm afraid this old body won't last much longer, right? You're almost buried, yet you still want to dominate the universe. I think you're from Namek, right? Why don't you just play with your water and play the game of dominating the universe for me? You're thinking too much. Mu Chuan went straight to the other side and opened fire, regardless of what the other party's opinions were. He didn't need to follow the other party's ideas. Besides, this was a good whetstone, and he didn't want to let it go so easily. Slag's face was full of anger. The cosmic people beside him were also angry at this time. Didn't he scold them together? However, when they were angry, a figure suddenly appeared in front of them. Who else could it be but Mu Chuan? Mu Chuan didn't care about these guys who liked to talk nonsense. Since they couldn't treat each other in a friendly way, he might as well just attack directly. Boom. He held two huge Qigong waves in his hands and exploded them directly in front of Slag. Many cosmic people present were instantly wiped out. Even Slag's capable subordinates were caught off guard and were also killed on the spot. The spaceship was even broken into. On the contrary, Slag survived. Not to mention that such an attack could not, although he could cause harm to him, he was a terrifying super Namekian with millions of combat power. How could he be solved so easily? But at this moment, he looked at all his subordinates who had been completely wiped out, and the destroyed spaceship. His face, which was already ugly, turned completely black at this moment. An even more terrifying air wave came out from his body. Slug gnashed his teeth and looked at Mu Chuan. You fool! You dared to kill all my subordinates, then. I will never let you go. Since the spaceship has been destroyed, it seems that only one of us can leave this planet. Are you ready to die? Slug's muscles slowly swelled, and his face gradually began to recover a little, and he didn't look so old. But it was just forcibly restoring his peak combat power. After all, he had already been completely old, and his peak was gone. At most, he could only maintain his peak combat power for a period of time. And it didn't last long. Just when Slag was talking like this, Mu Chuan on the opposite side immediately used the power of the giant ape, and the whole person was covered by the red air wave. The combat power soared instantly. His basic combat power had already reached 1.5 million. When the power of the giant ape was used, his combat power reached 15 million. This kind of combat power is already very terrifying. The whole planet is trembling because of it, even the water below has a vacuum for a while. He doesn't want to talk nonsense, and even doesn't want to play a turn-based game, just get into the best state directly. An instant body. When Slag didn't react, he kicked hard, and then a series of Qigong waves bombarded out. It was as if he was ready to completely destroy the entire planet and Slag. His move was quite fast. But Slag's reaction was not slow. Although he was caught off guard, he reacted and cut his hands horizontally, bouncing all the Qigong waves away. The expression on his face changed. He was angry. The opponent was too unethical. He was bombarded as soon as he opened his mouth to speak, and every time he was attacked while he was speaking. The first time he killed his men and destroyed his spaceship, the second time he kicked him and suffered countless Qigong waves. It was simply unforgivable. Slug roared, and the airwave on his body suddenly doubled. This was an unprecedented insult. But when he wanted to fight back, the next second, Mu Chuan appeared behind him, clasped his fists, and directly knocked him down from the air. Then Mu Chuan appeared below again, with a knee up, followed by an uppercut, pulling Slug's clothes and throwing them to the side. A Qigong wave blasted out. Slug was completely crushed. Whenever he wanted to talk nonsense, he was beaten up. This also made him completely smart, turning in the air and leaving the battlefield directly, which gave her a little breathing space. But he didn't talk nonsense anymore, and took off the helmet on his head with his hands, only to see his iconic Namek face, with a hideous smile on his face. The next moment, his body suddenly grew and turned into a huge giant. The fighting power also skyrocketed at this moment. I originally wanted you to rule the universe with me, but since you are so ignorant, I will let you feel the real power of me. You stinky monkey with a tail. Slag had just transformed, and immediately felt that he was fine again, and began to give up. However, before he could react, another Qigong wave attacked him directly in the face. Don't give the other party any chance. Mu Chuan has already felt the power of the other party. If there is a detector now, he is sure that the other party's fighting power has definitely reached about 30 million. You must know that the other party's normal state is only a few million. In this state now, the fighting power has skyrocketed 10 times, which is naturally quite terrifying. Fortunately, the other party has not really recovered to the peak state, otherwise the fighting power can at least reach 60 million. At that time, he can only run away. You can still fight. Mu Chuan weighed the strength of each other at this moment. Although the opponent's fighting power was indeed very strong, because of the huge body, the speed slowed down and the reaction became more sluggish. This simply exposed the weakness completely. Moreover, the reason why Mu Chuan was still dealing with the opponent was because he wanted to test his own fighting power and also wanted to take this opportunity to improve himself. It's useless to practice alone. Even if you rely on the sign-in system all the time, it's just to increase your fighting power. At that time, you will only have a very terrifying fighting power value. But the combat experience is almost zero. If this is true, it's really useless. Through fighting, you can not only increase your actual combat experience, but also let yourself master your own power. Of course, when he saw Slag, the memories of the past gradually emerged in his mind. Instead, he wanted to try another possibility. After all, he felt that the power of the giant ape he had was not safe, it was still too weak. When he tried, he naturally used a faster method to solve it. After all, Slag's weakness was too obvious. Unless he had no choice, he would never use such means. That would indeed solve the opponent, but he would not benefit from it. There is no need. Although there is a gap in combat power, the opponent's speed and reaction have changed. Mu Chuan dodged the opponent's attack while analyzing. This is a good opportunity. If it was an unknown opponent, Mu Chuan would not dare to be so reckless, but Slag seemed to have no secrets, whether it was means and ideas, or even fatal weaknesses. Then, when the combat power was equal, naturally it could only be used as a practice. Mu Chuan launched a fierce attack, and the whole person's breath seemed particularly violent. The Qigong wave hit Slag directly as if it was free. Purple blood splattered. Accompanied by Slag's roar, the scene was quite miserable. If this king has the peak combat power, what is a stinky monkey like you? I am a super Namekian. A real demon. While roaring, Slag stretched out his hands and grabbed Mu Chuan, who had been dodging, trying to catch him. However, since he knew that the other party was a Namekian, he naturally had to guard against this move. All Namekians not only have the ability to regenerate broken limbs, but also have the ability to heal themselves. Of course, the ability to stretch both hands at will is an indispensable ability. This is what a combat-type Namekian has as basic ability. And Slug is also a super Namekian after all. Mu Chuan dodged in an instant, hit the opponent's head with a fist, then grabbed Slug's tentacles and threw him hard towards the other party. However, Mu Chuan had never expected that Slug seemed to have predicted his movements in advance, and his hands turned again, and he grabbed him hard. He held it tightly in his hands, which was a force of up to 30 million combat power. The suffocating power came, and Mu Chuan couldn't help but screamed. Slug's face covered with blood became more hideous, and at this moment he laughed loudly, very unscrupulous. I've got you. You're quite slippery, but, do you really think there's no way to deal with you? You're just taking advantage of the situation. Next, I'll show my true strength. Slag grabbed Mu Chuan tightly, and a very strong qi gradually began to spread in his hand, and even condensed a qigong wave directly in his hand. A blue light emerged, and Mu Chuan felt a fatal crisis, as if a very hot force was approaching him. The most dangerous moment ever. He actually felt like the moment before the time travel. No. I will never allow it. Mu Chuan gritted his teeth, this kind of threat. It's really possible to lose his life. Even if he has a broken limb regeneration, he feels that if this qigong wave really hits him, the problem will be serious. He was ready to catch the opponent's weakness. But the opponent. Mu Chuan whistled. As a time traveler, he naturally knew Slag well. He would never let himself be killed. Training is training. But he would never allow his life. When the whistle sounded, Slag seemed to be immobilized. He was stunned for a moment, and then a painful expression appeared on his face. Even the qigong wave was interrupted. Mu Chuan took the opportunity to retreat violently and escaped from the opponent's control. But at this moment he was really angry. He felt that he was so close to death since he traveled through time. Anger made his pupils gradually dilate. Gradually, a yellow light filled his surroundings, and his aura began to surge. You really pissed me off. As if the voice came out from between his teeth, veins popped up on Mu Chuan's face, his eyes showed murderous intent, and his aura surged countless times in an instant. Yellow light permeated. The light radiated from the inside out, and at first it was just a small circle, but with his roar, it directly enveloped his whole body. The aura reached its peak. Mu Chuan's entire state was also completely different. When using the power of the giant ape, he seemed to be in a violent state, and he was very wild when fighting, and often chose the most direct and violent solution. But now his state gives people an unusually calm feeling, but it contains a very terrifying murderous aura. The momentum is very amazing. Slag felt the change in Mu Chuan's aura, and the expression on his face suddenly changed immediately. No. Impossible. How can your combat power be improved? What kind of method is this? Since there is such a transformation method, why didn't you use it at the beginning? Slag was a little confused, and even felt very unbelievable. His giant transformation is already very rare, which can increase combat power by 10 times. But the stinky monkey with a tail in front of him seems to have transformed twice, and the multiple of each transformation is different. The transformation with yellow light all over the body seems to be even more terrifying. The momentum has overwhelmed him. This made him want to retreat. Mu Chuan glanced at himself and felt a little surprised, and then heard what Slag said. If he could roll his eyes, he would definitely roll his eyes. If he could transform earlier, he would naturally not hesitate. After all, he is not the kind of person who hesitates. Mu Chuan looked at his appearance, and then felt his own combat power. He is now in a very strange state. Not a Super Saiyan, but stronger than normal. It is also not the state of using the power of the giant ape. This is probably not a mimic Super Saiyan, right? No wonder there is such a terrifying increase, even more terrifying than the power of the giant ape. If you feel it carefully, the increase is almost 30 times. His current combat power has reached at least 40 million. Even more terrifying than Slug, feeling the abundant power in his body, and thinking about the fact that he was the closest to death just now. Looking at Slug, his eyes became even colder. Bang! Mu Chuan ricocheted and punched Slug hard, followed by a fierce combo, leaving the opponent with no conscious breathing opportunity at all. He is not so stupid. As long as the strength is a little strong, he will be there to nag, and the villain will die because of talking too much. Mu Chuan will not make such a mistake. I've taken your life. It's because you really pissed me off, and your luck is really bad. He showed a cold smile, and a very strong qigong wave condensed in his hand, instantly covering everything. Feeling the terrifying qigong wave, Slag looked horrified. No. You can't kill me. I'm still useful. I'm still useful. I know a magical thing. As long as you gather enough, you can summon a dragon and make any wish you want. I know where this magical thing is. At this moment, Slag panicked. Feeling an unprecedented crisis, and if it were anyone else, they might still talk nonsense with him. But Mu Chuan was really decisive. When he realized that he was in danger, he instantly got himself out of danger. After his strength skyrocketed, he didn't say anything and wanted to kill Slag on the spot. Because of this, Slag was really scared. However, he never expected that the information he thought was very valuable would not be taken seriously by Mu Chuan at all. As a time traveler, he naturally has more information than everyone else, and this kind of information is not worth paying attention to at all. Mu Chuan said calmly, I'm sorry, I know more than you. Besides, you are more of a threat than a use to me. Let me send you off. Without waiting for the other party to reply, Mu Chuan's fierce qigong wave directly enveloped Slag. Slag let out a last scream and was completely wiped out under the qigong wave. Although he is a super Namekian with a very terrifying recovery ability, if he is really destroyed to the point where there is nothing left, then no matter how much recovery ability he has, it will be useless. As the qigong wave destroyed Slag, the entire planet fell into peace. In silence, the planet had already suffered damage at different levels. He withdrew from the simulant Super Saiyan state. He immediately felt out of breath. Although this was not a real Super Saiyan, the physical strength consumed was also quite amazing. The amplification rate was much higher, but it consumed more than the power of the giant ape. This also made him realize that although Saiyans could become Super Saiyans, the load on their bodies was also very serious. If the basic combat power did not reach a certain level, or even the physical strength did not reach a certain level, there would definitely be problems over time. It seems that the basic combat power must be improved quickly. Otherwise, there would be no way to reach the minimum threshold of Super Saiyans, and at the same time, when transforming, there would be no way to withstand such a huge pressure. When he felt his own shortcomings, Chuan quickly reflected on himself and prepared the next plan. He looked at himself. Most of his combat suit had been destroyed, and its gravity device had been destroyed during the battle. The battle was indeed quite intense. Although the time was not long, each time was extremely thrilling, and the opponent was indeed difficult to deal with. If the opponent recovered to his peak state, even if he had the state of a mimic super racer, he did not dare to guarantee whether he could win. I have to make some more durable gravity equipment if I have the chance, otherwise the basic combat power will be improved too slowly. The sign-in system is not powerful at all. At this time, he could not help but complain. At first, he really thought that after having the sign-in system, he would reach the peak of his life. Kick the god of destruction and punch the angel. But in this situation, even beating Frieza is difficult, let alone facing a more terrifying existence. Therefore, the sign-in system can only be regarded as auxiliary at most, and it cannot play a key role, unless he often stays next to that very terrifying guy. Only then can he obtain better skills. Unfortunately, he was not very lucky. After some adjustments, he officially boarded the spaceship, broke through the sky again, and returned to the space voyage. Not long after Chuan entered the universe, a frequency came from the spaceship, and he quickly connected. Boss, what happened just now? Why can't I contact you? The map of the spaceship also shows that you are not in the navigation orbit. After connecting to the other Saiyans, Chuan immediately heard the voices of Carl and others. He did not explain too much, just said that he encountered a little accident and delayed a little time, and there was no need to reveal too much at this moment. Otherwise it would easily cause pressure on them. So, they fell into the boring space navigation again. Because Chuan wanted to improve his basic combat power, even if he entered the spaceship, he did not rest at all, and he was also conducting crazy training. Without gravity equipment, he suddenly turned the gravity in the spaceship to 200 times. Gravity suddenly descended, and the entire spaceship was filled with red air pressure. That was because the space was abnormal after the gravity reached a certain level. Chuan immediately adapted to it. Although it was very strenuous, he had not yet reached the limit of his body. Then he began to practice. The end of the distant universe. Beulah took a spaceship to Frieza's territory. He went straight from the border of the universe to Frieza's territory at the fastest speed. The spaceship was almost falling apart on the way. But the anger in his heart made him not hesitate at all. Even if the spaceship fell apart, he would not have any problems in the vacuum of the universe. Therefore, anger is more important than anything else. When he arrived at the territory of Frieza's army, no one dared to stop him. After all, he was also a member of the Universe Emperor. Frieza, get out of here. On the planet, Beulah shouted directly. It immediately attracted the attention of many cosmic people. Originally, these cosmic people were extremely angry when they heard someone dare to call King Frieza's name directly. Just want to see which guy is so bold. But when they saw the similar spaceship and the person standing on the spaceship who looked a bit like King Frieza, they were all wilted immediately, and didn't even dare to show their heads. Isn't this King Frieza? Logically, he should be at the border of the universe, how could he appear here? These cosmic people panicked. After all, judging from the current situation, things seem to be very complicated. Anyone can see clearly that Frieza is angry. This is obviously asking for punishment. As the saying goes, when the gods fight, mortals suffer. They are afraid of being implicated. Hurry up, inform King Frieza that King Frieza has suddenly visited, and it seems that he is not a good person. They can't intervene, but they can report it quickly, which will not cause them to fail in their duties, and they don't even need to stay at the scene. Kill two birds with one stone. Frieza got the news quickly, and when he heard that Frieza was coming, he was still stunned for a while. Then he heard about Gyula's status, which made him even more confused. Oh, wow. Interesting, really interesting. When did Gyula get so interested that he came to see me? And looking at him like this, he seems to have bad intentions. In that case, let's meet him, my dear brother. Frieza rarely got off his aircraft. But everyone around him was really afraid to say anything. Although King Frieza acted very calm, the calmer he was, the more dangerous he was. Even Sabo and Paporia fell silent at this moment. Danger. These two big words were almost printed on his forehead. When Frieza came outside and saw Gyula with an angry face, a smile instantly appeared on his face. Who am I? Isn't this my dear brother? Why do you have the mood to come to me? Or do you want to have dinner with me? Looking at the smile on Frieza's face, Gyula's anger rose again. You, very good. Because of you, my mecha team was completely destroyed. Did you want to do that? Gyula looked directly at Frieza. Frieza was stunned when he heard this. At first, he thought that Gyula wanted to really tear his face with him. After all, he had been sending mecha teams to harass the border of the universe. Isn't this an invasion of his territory? He was not angry yet, but Gyula actually came to him in person. However, he never expected that the first sentence Gyula said was like this. What the hell? The mecha team was destroyed. You know, this, but there are more powerful than his Ginyu force, and any one of them is stronger than Captain Ginyu. Even he is extremely envious. This is a powerful team that can really conquer the universe, but now he hears what Gyula said. Is the mecha team really destroyed? Are you serious? Frieza replied. Gyula snorted coldly. Frieza, stop pretending here. If it weren't for your ambush, how could the mecha team be destroyed? Since you are so outrageous, don't blame me for being rude. I don't care about you at ordinary times, because I'm too lazy to pay attention to you. I didn't expect you to do such an excessive thing, so I will take back everything from you for my dad. Let Gyula talk, and Frieza was in a brainstorm. Because from Gyula's words, he more or less had a little guess. After all, it was he who sent the geographical location of Muchuan and others to Gyula. They should have sent a mecha team, but now, the mecha team that was sent was destroyed. This only leaves one possibility. But he found it hard to believe. Do those Saiyans really have such terrifying fighting power? But no matter how he doubted it, the facts were in front of him and he couldn't help but believe it. It seems that we should pay more attention to the Saiyans. We should find a chance to send all the remaining Saiyans away. Let them reunite with King Vegeta. At this time, Frieza really felt the threat of the Saiyans. No matter what benefits would come next, he couldn't stay any longer. Otherwise, if they continued to grow, it might really pose a threat to him. The legend that circulated in the blood of the Frozen Demon clan, no matter whether it was true or false. It's better to believe it than not to believe it. After making up his mind, looking at the exasperated Gyula, Frieza inexplicably felt the doctor's joy, and the cold breath just now dissipated instantly. Oh. I'm really sorry. I didn't know your mecha team was destroyed. Maybe your mecha team is weak. It's okay, my dear brother. If the old doesn't go, the new won't come. Wouldn't it be possible to summon more powerful people in the universe? Frieza really speaks without any pain, and he is a hermaphrodite as soon as he opens his mouth. Cooler's anger immediately reaches the highest point. He was already very angry, and even wanted to take it out on Frieza. Now he dares to hermaphrodite him. The anger in his heart immediately prompted him to take a step forward, and he appeared directly in front of Frieza and punched Frieza. Frieza was beaten and vomited blood on the spot. Frieza never thought that Cooler would actually attack directly, and took advantage of the opportunity. You know, this is his weakest form. The combat power is only 530,000. Compared with the Frozen Demon clan, this kind of combat power can be said to be destroyed with a wave of the hand. If it weren't for Frieza, he would have been destroyed by Cooler in that moment just now. The many cosmic people around were shocked. Terrified. King Frieza. King Frieza beat King Frieza. Oh my god, it's terrible. It's terrible. The entire Frieza army was in a panic. They all started to run for their lives. As for them wanting to stop them, that was simply impossible. Let alone the status of the two. Just talking about the fighting power of Frieza, this is not something that others can interfere with. So, the scene was completely in chaos. Bang 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 bang. Frieza was beaten like a sandbag, because his own power was too strong, and he had no way to control his own power, so he chose to change his form. But it was precisely because of this that he had no way to show his strongest strength at this critical moment. On the contrary, Frieza had always been in the fourth form, and his fighting power was very strong. He only needed to change once more to reach the best state. It can be said that he had a more comprehensive control over his own power than Frieza. Boom. Frieza was hit again, and his whole body sank into the ground of the planet, and a huge pit was smashed out of the ground. He looked particularly embarrassed. The blood was sprayed out. Gyula. As he roared, his body began to grow larger, and then 2 bull horns grew on his head, and his fighting power doubled in an instant. However, when he was still trying to perform the third stage of transformation and release his true power, Gyula suddenly approached, punched him in the face, and held the bullhorns tightly with both hands and swung them twice. Frieza, my dear brother, you are too weak. You clearly have the noble bloodline of the Frozen Demon clan, but you neglect to exercise and can't even control your huge power. It's simply shameful, so let me, your loving brother, teach you a lesson, so that you don't lose your life later. Gyula's current form is stronger than Frieza's final form, and he is completely crushing. However, although he was extremely angry that his mecha team was destroyed, he never thought of killing Frieza from beginning to end. The Frozen Demon clan was originally small in number. If one more person was missing at this time, then they would almost be exterminated. Even if there was any dispute, they would not really destroy their own clan. But a little lesson is still okay. Therefore, Frieza really suffered. In anger and indomitable spirit, he was beaten severely. Even when he was beaten, he gradually released his own power, changing from the first form to the fourth form. But it was useless. Even if he changed to the fourth form, his combat power was only 60 million. Compared with the permanent form of Cooler, it was not a little bit worse. There is no doubt that he was beaten to death in the end. A real complete crushing. After teaching Frieza a lesson, Cooler's anger had dissipated. As Frieza said, the old does not go, the new does not come. Since the mecha team has been destroyed, he is ready to look for more powerful cosmic people as his subordinates. Looking at Frieza, who was like a dead dog, Gyula said with disdain, Frieza, you are really shameful. You can't even control your own power. You are called the most talented guy in history, and you are wasting this noble bloodline in vain. This time, just take it as a lesson for you, work hard. Don't waste your talent, don't let me beat you too badly next time. After saying that, he boarded his spaceship without hesitation and flew towards the depths of the distant universe. In Frieza on the planet of the Lisa army. Even though the situation has calmed down, the aliens dare not approach easily, fearing that they will be affected. In the fierce battle just now, many aliens were too weak to escape. They were destroyed on the spot. Now, they naturally dare not get too close. In the deep pit of the planet, Frieza climbed up in a mess. Although it would not kill him, the continuous ravages of Gyula did make him look extremely embarrassed. This is the most humiliating thing in history. Since his birth, he has always been a genius of the Frozen Demon clan. After a little practice, his combat power has reached 120 million. Surpassing everything. Even stronger than his father, King Kurd. It is precisely because his talent is too terrifying that he neglects to practice. Now, he was humiliated and his heart was severely hurt. After climbing up from the deep pit, a hideous smile appeared on his face. Ha 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 ha. I, King Frieza, will have this day too. Not bad. The taste of blood is indeed unique and fascinating. Gyula. I'll remember you. I'll let you know how excellent the geniuses of the Frozen Demon clan are. At this moment, Frieza has suppressed his inner thoughts of ruling the universe. Ruling the universe is no longer worth mentioning to him. He only wants to practice now and bring out his terrifying talent. Then he will beat Gyula up and humiliate him. Let him pay back the humiliation he has suffered now 100 times and 1,000 times. He flew up and headed directly to the depths of the planet, even ignoring the entire Frieza Legion. Beulah never thought that because of his stimulation, Frieza would really embark on the path of practice, and his tragic path was officially opened. Frieza's sudden practice also completely changed the original historical trajectory. Once his talent is fulfilled, even in the universe, it will be a very terrifying existence. At this time, Mu Chuan didn't know anything about Frieza, and he was also practicing hard for a better survival. In the vast universe, several spaceships are flying like comets, and each spaceship is cutting through the starry sky in the universe, pulling out a long white beam of light. 4002. 4003. At this moment, Mu Chuan is practicing madly. At this time, he can really withstand 300 times the gravity under normal conditions. It's just a little bit strenuous, but after such crazy practice, the combat power has reached 2 million. This is still the basic combat power. Once he activates the power of the giant ape or the mimic super race, the combat power will double to varying degrees. That is his true strength. Although he has been practicing normally, he will use various forms to practice from time to time, so that he can maintain this form for a longer time. Adapting to this form, then he will be more casual when he wants to transform. Now, he can use the power of the giant ape very easily, almost the same as normal. It doesn't consume too much physical strength. On the contrary, even if he had adapted to the mimic super race, he still couldn't last too long. This made him realize that his training was not enough. After he did 5,000 handstand push-ups, he immediately stopped practicing and turned off all gravity. It seems that I have reached a bottleneck, and the improvement of combat power has become slow. The reason why Mu Chuan stopped practicing was not only because of the combination of work and rest, but also because he felt that he had encountered a bottleneck. In addition to the improvement of signing in, the improvement of his own practice was negligible. However, the sign-in system is really confusing. Sometimes the combat power gained by signing in is not much, so he doesn't pay much attention to it. Unless he stays with a stronger person. Or stays with people with special abilities, which will make him look forward to it a little. It seems that we can only wait until we reach Earth. If we can master the method of controlling Chi, then there should be a breakthrough. He is quite familiar with the information in the Dragon Ball. Therefore, in his opinion, the reason why he encountered a bottleneck is that the Saiyan's method of using power is too rough. Not only rough but also wild. There is no way to use Chi reasonably. When he can control the strength of his own Chi, it is estimated that it is also the moment when his fighting power explodes. This makes him inexplicably look forward to it. Then, he directly used the power of the giant ape. He planned to maintain this state and continue to practice. Let him practice in such a high-intensity state, not only can he adapt to the state, but also can control such a powerful force. It is easy to explode with a stronger force, but it is not so easy to control it in detail. Just like Son Goku in the Cell chapter, it is precisely because he has been maintaining the form of a Super Saiyan that he has truly controlled the details over time. It can also be said that the Super Saiyan 1 form has truly reached its peak. A further step is Super Saiyan 2. It can be seen that this method is still useful. Time passed in the practice. A month passed quietly. Mu Chuan and others officially arrived in the solar system and entered the edge of the Earth, and his combat power once again had a slight breakthrough. Of course, it was not only because he had always maintained the power of the giant ape as a normal state, but also because of the sign-in system. Let his combat power officially break through 3 million. This is a very terrifying value. You should know that when Sun Wukong first became a Super Saiyan, it was this basic combat power. Now he has reached this level. It's just that he knows that it's not so easy to become a Super Saiyan, but his basic combat power is so terrifying, and when he really becomes a Super Saiyan, it will be even more exaggerated. Even the current mimic Super Saiyan, it also makes his combat power reach 90 million, almost reaching 100 million combat power. It also allows her to see the ability to match Frieza. But he never expected that Frieza had already changed from before. After all, after practicing for a period of time, he truly realized his talent. At least he could maintain the most powerful combat power without relying on transformation and unlocking his own power. This was the biggest progress. As he continued to realize his talent, Frieza would truly become a true emperor of the universe. Let's not talk about Frieza. Mu Chuan and his group of Saiyans landed directly on Earth without any buffer. Because of the special nature of the spacecraft, when it landed on Earth, it immediately attracted the attention of many people. That one after another the spaceship, which looked like a meteorite, made people feel extremely magical. However, the distance was too far, and it looked like a meteorite had landed. It did not cause panic. In the Temple of the Gods, the gods and Popo looked solemn, because at this moment, they had already felt an unusual breath, and that huge breath simply made them breathless. The Saiyans did not hide their breath at all. At this moment, their almost normal combat power had already flowed to the surface. Although it was not in an explosive state, it was still very scary. Now the highest combat power on the entire Earth is only 1 or 200, and it has not reached the peak at all. It can be seen how terrifying the power represented by these alien visitors is. Mr. Popo, you also felt it, right? Yes, Lord God. Popo, with a charcoal face, said woodenly, but from his expression, you can also see the seriousness on his face. Several huge auras have descended on the Earth, and these auras are very terrifying. Any one of them can destroy the Earth. Is this an alien? It's bad. If it's really an alien, will it invade the Earth? The God of Heaven was worried, and his old face looked extremely sad. If it was an ordinary enemy, he might be able to deal with it. But there is no way to deal with it. Even the great demon King Piccolo can't compare to it. They are not in the same league at all. Now there is only despair. Bobo ignored it and stared down from the temple of the God of Heaven, looking at Mu Chuan and others who landed in a wilderness. Suddenly, when Mu Chuan and others slowly got off the spaceship, Bobo seemed to see something surprising. Is this a tail? He felt a little familiar, because some time ago, it seemed that a similar object had entered the Earth, but the combat effectiveness of the people riding it was not high. That's why he didn't pay too much attention to it, but the child at that time also had a tail behind him. There are some similarities with these people, very similar. Is this related? When they first came to Earth, all the Saiyans were very curious about the Earth. Why did they come here from afar? There must be some reason. This is a low-level civilization planet. It seems that there are no people with relatively high combat power. Greta took out the detector and conducted a basic scan of the entire Earth. The highest combat power is only more than 200. Any Saiyan child can dominate the entire planet, which shows that the combat power of this planet is not high and the technology is not very developed. Is there really anything magical about such a planet? Mu Chuan seemed to have some sense, and immediately looked towards the Temple of Heaven, showing a kind smile, and then said to the other Saiyans. Let's go, I'll take you to a place. Don't talk nonsense to me when you get there, do what I say. Mu Chuan flew towards the Temple of Heaven first, followed by Carl and others. Seeing this group of aliens coming towards the Temple of Heaven, the God of Heaven and Popo were shocked, and they actually had a bad feeling. It's not good, it's not good. This group of aliens is actually coming to the Temple of Heaven. The leader seems to have discovered us. Tien Shen and Bobo felt that a disaster was imminent. However, because of their important tasks, they could not leave the Temple of Heaven at all, let alone abandon the Earth. They could only spend this moment in tension and panic. A few seconds. Mu Chuan descended on the Temple of Heaven. Seeing this group of terrifying aliens coming, Tien Shen and Bobo were like they were facing a great enemy. What are you doing, aliens? Why do you want to come to Earth? Earth is a peace-loving planet and has never been involved in any disputes in the universe. I am the god of this planet. I hope you can leave as soon as possible. Although he was very nervous, Tien Shen still took the initiative to stand up, because it was his duty to protect the Earth. God. So weak. With a combat power of less than 1000, you are also called a god. Too weak. A Saiyan said bluntly that since he was called a god, his strength should not be too weak. But this strength is totally inconsistent. However, he didn't know that the Earthlings were weak and the martial arts atmosphere was not too strong, which also made most people's combat power not high. Compared with the aliens, it was completely incomparable. Weakness is normal. Mu Chuan waved his hand to stop the curious Saiyans. God, Mr. Popo, please don't misunderstand, we have no malice, we come with good intentions. As soon as he opened his mouth, God and Popo were shocked, and their faces showed a trace of horror. Why? Why did he know them? If God just introduced himself, it is understandable, but why did he know Popo? At this moment, they both felt unprecedented fear. If it was just the strength, then they would at most be panicked due to the huge gap in strength. And now, the other party seemed to have predicted the future and actually knew their identities first. The unknown is the most terrifying. Tianshan and Bobo were silent, but looking at their pupils that kept expanding, it can be seen that they were extremely restless in their hearts. It is estimated that they had already turned upside down. Mu Chuan didn't know what Tianshan and Bobo were thinking. He said directly, I want to learn how to control Qi from Bobo. This shouldn't be difficult, right? As for my men, they will also practice here next, and they have to rely on Tianshan and Bobo. He directly explained his purpose. At this time, Tianshan and Bobo were extremely surprised. Just now, they were quite restless and even very entangled in their hearts. Now that they heard why Mu Chuan came, they were stunned for a moment. How to control the Qi? Bobo and Tianshan repeated it again. Mu Chuan nodded. Then Bobo felt it carefully. The Qi of these aliens present was indeed very huge, and their fighting power was absolutely terrifying. But they were like the sun exposed to the outside, and they didn't know how to restrain it at all. This also made her understand that perhaps it was because of this that they wanted to control the Qi. In this way, they were inexplicably relieved. It's good that they are not here with bad intentions, otherwise, relying on the size of the earth, there is no way to resist so many terrifying aliens. Because my own strength has reached a bottleneck, if I can't control the Qi, then the skills used in battle will be relatively rough. There is no way to use my own strength reasonably. Because I know Bobo's methods, I came to Earth from afar, and I hope Bobo and God, please give me some advice. Quote. Mu Chuan said very seriously. It can be seen that he is very cautious about this matter and is not ambiguous. The Saiyans behind him also became serious at this time, although they did not know what their boss was talking about. But it was the first time they saw the boss so serious, and they were facing a person with weak combat power. The charcoal light guy in front of them had a combat power of nearly 1000, but it was also very weak for them, just the level of a cosmic person. When planet Vegeta was not destroyed, even the lower level warriors would be stronger than this charcoal head. But the boss's attention made them pay more attention to it, and at the same time they knew that they would have to practice here next. If they can gain something, then they can be regarded as getting closer and closer to the boss. It seemed that they felt respected. Popo nodded and said woodenly, I will, then you stay and practice. Quote. As for whether you can master it as soon as possible, it depends on your personal talent. Bobo will do his best to teach you everything I know. However, Bobo has a request. You say. Mu Chuan gestured to Bobo to tell his request. If the Earth is in danger in the next period of time, please help rescue it. After all, the Earth is too fragile and the strength of the Earthlings is too weak. Since you can find the Earth, it also means that the rest of the cosmic people can also find the Earth. I just hope that you can rescue the Earth by then. For this question, Mu Chuan naturally did not have any hesitation and nodded in agreement. Not to mention that if Bobo taught him how to control the air, it would be a favor, and the Earth would become the center of the universe in the future. Many strong people were born among them, which is worth being cautious. He even wanted to get more skills from many strong people. For example, the infinite energy of the artificial people. This is also a skill he needs very much. The contract was reached. All Saiyans officially stayed in the Temple of Heaven to practice. Popo's first request was to sit cross-legged in silence, feeling his own strength and the existence of the censor. When he heard Popo's first request, the Saiyans headed by Carl and others were stunned for a moment, and then said, is this practice? What's the use of this practice? There is no way to improve your combat effectiveness, and there is no skill at all. Is this kind of practice really necessary? It's no wonder they have this idea. After all, on planet Vegeta or in the entire universe, combat effectiveness is the most important. The rest of the unorthodox methods were not taken seriously by them at all. So much so that such questions would be raised. Popo didn't waste any words, and said woodenly, since you want to feel the effect of Qi, why don't you close your eyes and fight with me? See if you can feel my presence. Isn't this easy? Greta hurriedly stood up. Although they didn't have the control of Qi, they still had the most basic judgment. He didn't think that with his combat power of tens of thousands, he couldn't sense a black charcoal head with only a few hundred combat power. So, Greta slowly closed his eyes. At first, there was a trace of confidence on his face. After all, he had been locking on Bobo from beginning to end. But when he closed his eyes, Bobo's existence seemed to disappear. But, in the eyes of the others, Bobo was wandering around him unscrupulously, but Greta didn't notice it at all. This made many murderers very confused. What is Greta doing? Others have been wandering around him, but why doesn't he move, and he looks more confused? Is this guy not letting it go? Everyone was talking. Just then, Mu Chuan spoke. You are taking it for granted. Do you really think it's that simple? Why not close your eyes and feel it? Then everyone closed their eyes as well. The next second, they finally knew why Greta had not moved, and even revealed a trace of doubt. Because when they closed their eyes, Bobo's existence had indeed disappeared. Even if they locked it at the beginning, there was no way to find Bobo's figure. This is too magical, right? After feeling it for a while, they were really shocked. What kind of method is this? A few hundred combat power can deceive their perception. If they can have such a method in the battle, they can definitely take the initiative. My God. After feeling it for a while, they slowly opened their eyes. At this time, Bobo's figure came into view. At this moment, they really believed that this black charcoal head also had some methods. So they didn't care about Greta, and all sat down and started practicing, silently feeling their own strength, and according to Bobo, feeling the chi in their bodies. After trying for a long time, Greta finally opened his eyes in confusion, looked at the Saiyan who had already sat down, and joined in. Bobo's voice echoed in their ears. Empty your mind and feel your own power quietly. With your current terrifying chi, it should be easy to feel it. This is the first step. Everyone followed his method and started to do it silently. Mu Chuan did the same. However, when he was silently feeling the chi in his body, the system prompt sound suddenly rang. Ding! Time is up, sign in successfully. Reward for chi control. Suddenly, after the system prompt sounded, Mu Chuan suddenly opened his eyes. Originally, he wanted to practice honestly. But he never expected that the sign-in system was finally powerful. He just approached Bobo and directly let him complete the ultimate goal. Tongzi, it's finally useful. It's no longer a useless system that only increases combat power. Mu Chuan felt extremely happy. His actions were also seen by Bobo and the gods. The reaction was too intense, and it was impossible not to see it. Bobo said in a dull voice, it's not okay to be unable to calm down like this. It's impossible to sense the chi. You have to devote yourself to it. Faced with Bobo's words, Mu Chuan stood up silently. Mr. Bobo, I have truly mastered the chi. Thank you very much for your help. I want to try my most powerful power now. Let you appreciate it too. If there are any deficiencies, please point them out. Quote. He has always wanted to try his limit, but because he couldn't control the chi, his combat power didn't improve much. But now it's different. He can increase infinitely. Bobo and Tianxian were stunned when they heard his words, and they didn't react for a while, but the next second they felt a terrifying chi. The whole sky trembled. Even the earth shook, but ordinary people couldn't feel it at all, but anyone with a little strength had a premonition. But they didn't have enough strength, so they naturally didn't understand what was going on. When Mu Chuan exploded, the other Saiyans had opened their eyes, and they also wanted to see what changes would happen after they really mastered the chi. How do you think the old man will show it? Although it feels magical to control the chi, can it only be hidden? This is too insignificant. After all, we came to this planet from afar, and even let that black charcoal head lead us to practice. I always feel that it shouldn't be like this. Quote. Indeed, let's see what the boss will do. During their conversation, Mu Chuan's aura began to surge suddenly. His normal combat power had already reached 3 million, and now when he exploded, his combat power was soaring infinitely. It reached 3.5 million all of a sudden. 4 million. 4.1 million. 4.2 million. Finally, the basic combat power reached 5 million. When the basic combat power reached 5 million, it slowly stabilized. This is his current limit. It can be said that once he goes all out, he is sure to defeat Frieza. After all, his full strength has exceeded 120 million. Of course, he didn't know that Frieza had already it's different now. Feeling his terrifying aura, all the Saiyans present were stunned. It was too scary. Is this the level that humans can reach? Their boss's fighting power was so terrifying that they didn't dare to use the detector at this time. They always felt that once the detector was used, it would almost explode instantly. No doubt. In addition to them, Popo and the gods were even more stunned, because they could feel the chi very clearly. The huge chi almost doubled. This cosmic man is too scary. In such a short time, he mastered the use of chi, and at the same time made his chi more than doubled. Terrible. Is this really what humans can achieve? The God of Heaven couldn't help but blurt out. Popo on the side said dully, Lord God of Heaven, they are cosmic people, not like earthlings. This immediately silenced the God of Heaven. No comparison, no comparison. Others can easily crush them with just one finger, not to mention the so-called Great Demon King Piccolo. Anyone who comes will be nonsense. Carl and other Saiyans were also confused. Practicing at the same time, the boss has completely mastered it, but they haven't even touched the most basic edge. Isn't the gap too big? And seeing the boss's explosion, it always feels quite terrifying. Greta quietly took out the detector and started testing it directly, but he greatly overestimated his detector, which is an old-fashioned detector. It just started and it ended. There was only a sound of explosion. The detector emitted thick black smoke. This immediately attracted everyone's attention. Facing everyone's gaze, Greta could only laugh. I just wanted to see how strong the boss is, but I didn't expect this detector to be so useless. It exploded just after it was turned on. Carl rolled his eyes. Are you talking nonsense? The boss's combat power at the beginning cannot be measured by the detector, not to mention that it has improved now. A detector is wasted. Everyone said so, but they did feel Mu Chuan's improvement, but they didn't know the specific value. When his combat power reached the peak, Mu Chuan put away his chi in time. He could already fully control his own chi and release it freely. He exhaled gently. At this time, everyone came to his side. Boss, what is your current combat power? Why do you feel it's unfathomable? The detector just exploded. Mu Chuan rolled his eyes at Greta. He also saw his stupid behavior just now. He knew that his combat power was so strong, but he dared to use the detector to try. Not to mention that his combat power is very terrifying. Any person with a combat power of hundreds of thousands or millions can easily make the detector explode. As you can imagine, the old-fashioned detector is not very useful. Mu Chuan estimated his combat power and finally said a rough value. It's hard to say the specific combat power, but it's about 5 million. When he said this number, everyone present was stunned, especially all the Saiyans. They are particularly clear about the combat power value. After all, they have always used combat power to measure the strength of the enemy. At the same time, there is also a standard for measuring their own strength. Now hearing this. Oh my god. 5 million combat power. How terrifying this is. The highest basic combat power of all the people present was just over 10,000, and their boss had already reached 5 million. This is too outrageous. The basic combat power is 5 million, and once the power of the giant ape is used, it has reached 50 million. The more you think about it, the more terrifying it is. It is almost reaching the level of Frieza. In addition to being shocked, they feel extremely excited. This is also their guiding light. Since the boss can reach this level, as long as they work hard to practice, they can reach this level one day. It's just a matter of time. It's better for someone to take the lead in demonstration than to see the end. Too strong. Boss, you are really too strong. It has reached a combat power of 5 million, doesn't it mean that one day we can also reach this level? Of course. Mu Chuan nodded without hesitation. It's not that he wants to fool the Saiyans present, but anyone with Saiyan blood and diligent practice can have such terrifying combat power. And this is just the starting point. After getting the accurate answer, all the Saiyans present immediately began to sit down and silently feel the energy in their bodies. They also want to quickly improve their combat power. Although it will be much slower. But at least they know they are moving forward. Seeing that all the Saiyans have entered the state, Mu Chuan feels extremely relieved. This will be the beginning of the rise of the Saiyans. As long as the Saiyans are serious, the speed of combat power improvement is not slow. When all the Saiyans really grow up and can stand on their own, then, he will create his own Saiyan empire. Mu Chuan went straight to in front of Bobo and others. Bobo and Tianshan were still in a state of confusion. The earth-shaking chi just now was too violent. It felt that if a little power was released, the entire earth would be destroyed. It was too terrible. Mr. Bobo, Tianshan, thank you very much just now. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to fully control the chi now. Thank you very much. Bobo and Tianshan shook their heads hurriedly. No, this is none of our business. We just gave you a little guidance. You are really talented. You can understand it in an instant. Mu Chuan didn't get too entangled. Although he said this with a sense of gratitude, it was more to cover up the facts. He didn't practice at all, it was just a sign-in system that let her sign in with one click. Of course, if it weren't for Tianshan and Bobo, he would have no way to control the chi. In the end, it was indeed Tianshan and Bobo who helped him. He said again at this time, I have another request. Although it is a bit presumptuous, it is very important to me. You can say it as long as Popo and Lord God can help. Popo can now feel Mu Chuan's kindness, in order to establish a good friendship. Without violating the principle, of course, we can help as much as possible. Such a strong friendship, if it can be obtained, it will be a very lucky thing for the entire earth. After getting Popo's reply, Mu Chuan said softly, I want to use the Spirit Time House. I heard that one day in the Spirit Time House is equivalent to 1 year. I need time very much. It is naturally better to get time to practice. After all, the stronger your own combat power, the greater the chance of survival. In the Dragon Ball world, there are too many strong people, simply too many to count. He doesn't want to wait until the real enemy appears before he is helpless and furious. Instead of doing this, it is better to seize any opportunity and use any time to improve combat power. Only when you are strong can you win. Spiritual Time House. Bobo was stunned for a moment, and then he and the god looked at each other, and saw a hint of surprise in each other's eyes. Why does this cosmic person know this? Is there really the ability to predict the future? Although they were confused, they were not prepared to ask. After all, this might be related to other people's secrets. Okay. But although the spiritual time house has a different time flow speed from the outside world, everyone can only enter it twice in their lifetime. After entering the spiritual time house, if you don't come out within the specified time, you may be trapped in the spiritual time house forever. Bobo said the important information. Mu Chuan nodded silently. For him, a time traveler, the spiritual time, this crucial place, naturally would not be unknown. And he still knows it quite well. Although a person can only enter twice in his lifetime, when his strength reaches a certain level, he can also enter many times. It just depends on the individual. Mu Chuan is not going to enter many times. He can increase his combat power to 5 million in a few months. Give him a year, he is sure that when he comes out of the spirit time house, his fighting power will be very terrifying. Even he dare not predict. Okay, since you have decided, Mu Chuan, please follow me. Before knowing each other, Bobo and Tianshan already knew that Mu Chuan and others were a fighting nation from outer space. The standard for measuring strength is also based on fighting power, which is a different standard from Qi, but it is very different. It can be said that through understanding, Bobo and Tianshan already know how dangerous the universe outside the Earth is. It is for this reason that they want to make friends with Mu Chuan and gain the friendship of the strong, which will definitely come in handy at that time. At the same time, when Bobo led Mu Chuan to the spirit time house, Tianshan fell into deep thought. It seems that the universe outside the Earth is very dangerous, and we must prepare as soon as possible. The fighting power of any cosmic person is several times stronger than that of Piccolo. This is really terrible. When getting to know each other. Because it is difficult to equate combat power units, Mu Chuan finally used Piccolo, the most powerful demon king on Earth, as a reference, which made Bobo and the gods understand. But the more they understood, the more terrified they felt. The universe is so terrifying. Isn't it too scary? Once discovered by the evil cosmic people, the Earth will be in trouble. A Piccolo Demon King has made them feel very difficult. What about cosmic people? Bobo led Mu Chuan to the Spirit Time House. Mu Chuan, this is the entrance to the Spirit Time House. Enter this door and the space behind is the Spirit Time House. Be sure to remember to come out within the specified time, otherwise you will be trapped inside. When Mu Chuan was about to enter the Spirit Time House, Bobo also reminded him. Mu Chuan nodded. I know. Then, he slowly opened the door of the Spirit Time House and stepped in. When the door was closed, the whole person seemed to be in a blank space, with a vast expanse of white in front of him. Except for the small house he was in, there was an endless expanse of white. If you don't have a strong heart, you probably won't be able to bear this scene for long. In addition to the passage of time, the spiritual time house may also be affected by environmental factors. This is the place where strong people are truly created. Mu Chuan took a deep breath. Although he had expected it, as a modern person in the previous life, endless practice is indeed very boring. What's more, he is in an endless white space. But considering the dangers of the Dragon Ball world, crazy practice is inevitable. It's time to start. Strive to master the Super Saiyan within a year, otherwise no matter how much the basic combat power is improved, it will seem quite powerless in the face of future terrifying enemies. Then, Mu Chuan officially practiced. Improving basic combat power is the first choice, and there is also an attempt to become a Super Saiyan. He only knew that there seemed to be no better way to become a real Super Saiyan except to mobilize emotions. Either extreme anger, or various emotions. It can be said that the most important thing is to mobilize emotions. Just wanting to put oneself in a state of extreme anger is not easy, and it is not something that can be controlled just by wanting to. You can only say that it depends on fate. On the contrary, basic combat power is not easy for him. After mastering the chi, the so-called bottleneck will naturally loosen, not to mention the sign-in system. 1 year. The combat power alone is estimated to double. When he was trapped in endless practice, the earth was also changing. Because you understand the horror of the cosmic people, the gods used their authority to quietly pass some unrealistic news to the lower world. For example, as long as you climb up the Kalen Tower, you can get the guidance of God and become a unique martial artist in the world. This is just one of them. There are many more news, in order to make all martial artists and talented people practice with all their strength. At least it is faster than this comfortable life. Of course, this is not over yet. After thinking again and again, Bobo and the gods are ready to gather all the Dragon Balls in order to improve the physical fitness of the human beings on Earth, which can also take a step forward on the basis. At least the general combat power has been improved a lot. This is the solution made by Bobo and the gods based on the problems of the Earth. Prepare for a rainy day. Although there is still no way to fight against the power of the aliens, changes can be made before the aliens discover the Earth. Who knows, when the aliens really discover the Earth will be completely different from the past. What's more, there are this group of Saiyans. After finalizing everything, Popo and the gods really set their sights on the Saiyans. At this moment, the Saiyans have really fallen into practice. After all, with Mu Chuan as a demonstration, the practice has become more focused. It only took an hour for Carl to first sense the existence of Chi, but it was just a simple sense. If you want to achieve control, there is still a certain distance. But this is already a good start. Then came the only woman in the Saiyan team. Ahena. A Saiyan woman with long hair. Her combat power is not very strong, and she is considered medium in the entire team. But she is extremely fierce in battle, even more terrifying than most male Saiyans, otherwise she would not be classified as an evil Saiyan. Perhaps it was because of Mu Chuan's existence that this group of evil Saiyans slowly changed. Of course, that was only for their own people and those who were kind to them. For the rest of them, their personalities were not good. The other Saiyans became more concerned after sensing the Chi one after another. One of them sensed the Chi. Popo said dully. This made him sigh, worthy of being a cosmic person. To have the title of a fighting race, it means that this race is quite terrifying in terms of fighting. From nothing to something, it has mastered it so quickly. Moreover, it seems that others are also fast. It's okay that they are strong, but their learning ability is so terrifying. This race will definitely not be weak in the universe. Popo thought in his heart. But he didn't know that the Saiyans had been destroyed in the universe long ago. Although they are called a fighting race. But this is just a self-proclaimed title. If the original trajectory of the Dragon Ball world is followed, the Saiyans are indeed not worth mentioning. If it weren't for Sun Wukong taking a different path, the Saiyans would be just dust in the universe. As time passed, all Saiyans have mastered the Chi, not only adapting to it, but also controlling it. At this time, they slowly opened their eyes, and joy appeared in their eyes. At this moment, they really understood why Mu Chuan could burst out such terrifying fighting power when he mastered Chi. Is this Chi? It's really amazing. I never thought that I could know a person's strength by sensing. This is much better than a detector. Not only does the detector have to be updated at any time, but the enemy's fighting power is too strong and it will explode in an instant, which is completely impractical. It is also easy to break in battle, not to mention that sometimes there is no way to detect it accurately. Once someone masters Chi, the detector is like a virtual thing, useless. This is the information they learned after mastering Chi. You have truly mastered the control of Chi. Next, you just need to adapt well, and then you can master it perfectly. Popo appeared beside them at the right time and said. The Saiyans nodded, and they had great respect for Popo. Although this black charcoal head is not very powerful, he is indeed very capable. Ahena suddenly stood up and said to Carl beside her, I want to see what my combat power has reached now. Please use the detector to show me. Although the detector is not very practical, it can still detect it very accurately for people like us with low combat power. Okay. Carl looked serious. He also wanted to see how much his combat power could be improved after mastering the Chi. Not only him, but all Saiyans were extremely curious. After Ahena was ready, she started to explode. In an instant, the temple of the gods began to tremble, but the frequency of trembling was not as terrifying as Mu Chuan, but it was already quite exaggerated for ordinary people. Beep, beep, beep. The detector was ringing crazily. In the end, Ahena's combat power stopped at the critical value. Carl was surprised. Although he had expected it, when the real combat power quality was placed in front of him, he still felt it was quite exaggerated. Is this the result after mastering the control of Chi? Carl, how much is it? Don't try to figure it out by yourself. Share happiness with others. Tell me now. When he was surprised, all the Saiyans at the scene were already looking forward to it. They could not wait. The same was true for Ahena. Her combat power was just over 10,000 before. What about now? Then Carl's voice came over. 23,000. 23,000 combat power. At this moment, the expressions on the faces of the people at the scene changed at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it more than doubled. Doesn't that mean their combat power is not much different? At this moment, they really understood how terrifying the control of Chi is, which can burst out the real combat power in their bodies. Although the value of the detector is not wrong, the power controlled in the body has always been hidden in their bodies, and it can only be used in desperate situations. But when they master the use of Chi, they can burst out their most peak combat power anytime and anywhere. This method can be said to be magical. Then, everyone thanked Popo again and again. After all, it was he who taught them how to use Chi. At the same time, when the Saiyans mastered the use of Chi, an unprecedented thing also happened in the Spirit Time House. When Mu Chuan's basic combat power reached the critical point, it was basically difficult for him to rely on his own practice to gain. Even if the sign-in system can improve his combat power, it is quite slow after all. In the end, his combat power reached a terrifying 11 million, which is a very exaggerated number, and it is still the basic combat power. Just using the power of the giant ape, he can have a combat power of 100 million. Not to mention the mimic Super Saiyan transformation. That is even more exaggerated. But as his basic combat power reached 11 million, he knew that it would be quite difficult to improve it. Then he tried to stimulate his emotional changes. At first, he was recalling the destruction of the Saiyans, but thinking about it was useless. Calm and peaceful. Even though he has Saiyan blood, he is a time traveler after all, and he can't empathize with the others. Therefore, his approach failed after all. Finally, he had an idea and recalled the past of his previous life, not only his miserable life, but also all kinds of cold eyes. Gradually, his aura was exploding. Even he himself didn't notice that when he was angry, there was a faint yellow light in his body, and the color was slowly changing. But he didn't notice it yet. He kept recalling all kinds of things, and this was something he had experienced personally, which made him feel even more empathetic. Ah, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to be slaughtered anymore. I want to be the one that everyone is paying attention to. What I didn't have in my previous life, I will make up for it in this life. I want to live a brilliant life. He shouted out his true thoughts, although he tried his best to hide it, but this was his true thoughts after all. Otherwise, he wouldn't have endured the loneliness and hard training, although it was to live in this Dragon Ball world, but he really wanted to live a brilliant life. Become the one that everyone is paying attention to. At the same time, you can control your own life at will. It was a simple reason, but in his previous life, he was far behind. The miserable anger in his heart turned into strength, and his breath surged to the peak in an instant. The whole spiritual time house shook. Finally, following a roar, Mu Chuan's hair turned golden, and his whole body was filled with golden light, and his eyes were extremely cold. There was a hint of tyranny in his heart. This is the Super Saiyan. The first Super Saiyan was officially born. When Mu Chuan became a Super Saiyan, Popo and God suddenly looked at the spiritual time, with a hint of shock in their eyes. Just now, they actually felt a very huge breath. This breath is frighteningly strong. Even more terrifying than Mu Chuan. Mr. Popo, did you feel a very huge breath just now? Popo nodded. Yes, Popo just felt a very terrifying breath. This breath is not only huge, but also full of primitive brutality, which makes people feel very uncomfortable, but Popo feels a little familiar in it. After Popo finished speaking, he carefully felt it, and finally said uncertainly, "It seems to be Mu Chuan's breath." God. A group of Saiyans. You just said that you felt a very huge breath, and it was the boss's breath. Greta asked hurriedly. The God of Heaven was also confused. He did feel a very huge evil breath of humiliation and abuse, but he didn't know whether it was Mu Chuan. He looked at Bobo with a puzzled look. Bobo was watched by so many people, and he was not sure in his heart, because no matter how much his strength improved, his breath should not change much. But this breath was indeed extraordinary. Not only was it strong and slightly evil, it was completely different from when Mu Chuan exploded at the beginning. This was also the reason for his uncertainty. Bobo is not sure either, but he just felt that this breath was very similar to Mu Chuan, but it was a little different. But Bobo is sure that the breath just now was definitely transmitted from the spiritual time, so it can only be Mu Chuan. When Bobo finished speaking, everyone at the scene was silent. Then, they really wanted the day to end as soon as possible so that they could see if it was true. And after hearing what Bobo and the God of Heaven said, it should be that their boss's anger surged a lot, otherwise he would never show such an expression. After all, I have seen the boss's 5 million combat power level before, so I am not so surprised. Obviously, it is because the improvement is too much. Therefore, all the Saiyans present have no intention to practice, just staring quietly, staring at the door of the spiritual time house. The same is true for Popo and the gods. While they are practicing frantically. In the distant universe, Frieza, who was taught a lesson, officially came out of retreat. At this moment, he still maintains his final form. After such a long time of practice, he can control all his strength. Even improved. Oh, ha ha ha. Power. Power. This feeling is so wonderful. This king is officially out of retreat. Kula, you just wait. This time it's my turn to deal with you. Feeling his own huge power, Frieza seemed more confident. Even though he knew that Kula's final form had a combat power of 470 million, he was not afraid. Because he did not just control his original power, after months of training. His combat power increased several times. He even felt a hint of the hidden power of the Frozen Demon clan, but he did not have the temper to endure it any longer. He wanted revenge. He wanted to crush the enemy. Of course, as the boss, Eula had to be left a little later. Otherwise the biggest fun would be solved at once, wouldn't that really spoil the fun? Therefore, he did not prepare for revenge immediately, but was ready to find the culprit. That was the one who solved the mecha team. If it were not for solving the mecha team, Eula's revenge would not have been attracted, resulting in him, the Emperor of the Universe, Frieza, being severely crushed. What can a man endure? Saiyans. I didn't expect that in just a few months, they have truly risen up, and can even easily deal with the mecha team. It seems that we can't delay any longer, we must root out the grass. On the contrary, King Vegeta's son is not to be feared. Thinking about what happened, Frieza prepared to go there in person to truly solve this hidden danger. That was the wandering Saiyan in his impression, Mu Chuan. Since that guy appeared, his strength has been growing. In a short period of time, he has gone from a combat power of 2,400 to a level that can deal with the mecha team. If he is allowed to grow up again, maybe he will become the Super Saiyan that has been passed down by the frozen demon clans since ancient times. He will not allow such a thing to happen. Then, Frieza summoned the cosmic people in the Legion and learned the situation in recent period, and the movement track of Mu Chuan and others were learned through the detector. Although the detector was turned off when on Earth, the tracking function could not be turned on at all. But there were still traces at the beginning. As long as a location can be determined, it can be found by using human wave tactics. This group of monkeys is quite smart. They know how to turn off the detector, but what about turning off the tracking function of the detector? After all, they can't escape the palm of this king. Go. Gather all the cosmic people for me. I want to search this starry sky and conduct a carpet search for me. I want to know the traces and specific information of the Saiyans. If I don't get the information I want. When Frieza said this, his tail gently touched the ground, and he saw a bottomless crack suddenly appeared on the ground. Like a bottomless abyss. This scene scared the cosmic people into panic. Every soul was scared away. It was too terrible. Just touching the ground, the whole planet seemed to be cracked. This made him even more afraid to neglect. He quickly ordered all the cosmic people to start the action. Frieza followed closely. Before Frieza left, he also asked the people at the base to send a message to Vegeta. That is to put down everything in your hands and go back to the headquarters directly. There is no deep meaning. He just wants to eradicate the Saiyans and eliminate the trouble forever. He has truly felt the horror of the Saiyans. King Vegeta may be too arrogant, which makes him stay where he is. On the contrary, the wandering Saiyan has always been aware of the crisis. This is why he can improve so quickly. The potential of this race makes Frieza feel really uneasy. As Frieza's will was issued, the behemoth Frieza's army took action completely, and every planet was searched in a carpet-like manner, which also caused a lot of killing. The entire galaxy was in turmoil, and many planets were destroyed because of this. It can be said that there was a real river of blood. Cosmic Blood River. North Kai King Planet. When Frieza's army was in action, North Kai King suddenly fell from his chair, his tentacles twitching, as if he had sensed something very bad. The next second, he stood up with a serious face, regardless of whether he was hurt by the fall, and came directly to the edge of the North Pole King's heart, quietly observing the lower world. Not good, not good. What on earth stimulated this Frieza? Why would he mobilize such a huge army, and how much slaughter would this cause? He had never thought that Frieza would be so shameless. According to his observation, Frieza was the emperor of the universe after all, with his own basic frame, and most of the time he was measured in his actions. It would not sweep across the entire galaxy like it is now. If Frieza were allowed to act like this, the North Galaxy would really be in ruins. Oh no, this is really a big deal. Not only did Frieza do it himself, he also sent so many aliens. Who offended him? Then, I saw King Kai of the North looking at each planet, observing the actions and words of the aliens. Finally, he got the information he wanted. This group of aliens was actually looking for Saiyans. Aren't they the group of warlike monkeys? A race that claims to be a fighting nation. So that's it. Frieza just destroyed planet Vegeta some time ago, but at that time there were still some Saiyans who survived. But those Saiyans seem to have joined Frieza's army. Now so many aliens are sent to conduct a carpet search. It is estimated that something is involved. After knowing the reason, King Kai of the North did not dare to relax at all. The entire Milky Way is so large that even he, a King Kai, could not guarantee that he could really recruit people. Of course, since it made Frieza so fuss. Then the strength should not be weak. Anyone with a little bit of strength would have found it easy to choose them early. So, King Kai of the North observed carefully. Because when planet Vegeta was destroyed, he still paid some attention to it. After all, he was a relatively powerful race in his galaxy, so he would naturally pay attention to it. He also had a very good understanding of the characteristics of the Saiyans. Then, when he observed the Earth, he suddenly saw a group of Saiyans on the Temple of the Gods. Isn't this the target he was looking for? Found it. It turns out that they are hiding on Earth, and they even ran to the Temple of the Gods. I have to ask the gods what's going on. King Kai of the North instantly connected with the gods. God of Earth, I am King Kai of the North Galaxy. Can you hear me? The god of the Earth froze suddenly and looked up at the sky. At that moment, he actually heard a voice appear in his mind. Isn't this an illusion? God of the Earth, this is not an illusion. My voice really appears in your mind. If you want to reply to me, just think about it in your mind. I want to ask you one thing now. What's going on with these Saiyans on Earth? King Kai of the North asked her own question. In order to show her status as a king, she was not panicking at the moment. Instead, the god of the Earth panicked for a moment. He looked at the expressionless faces of the other people around him, obviously not hearing that voice. Moreover, he did feel that the other party's life level was higher than his, which made him put his doubts behind him. Then he told all the information he had learned. After a while, King Kai of the North finally figured out the problem and finally sighed. It should be correct. It's this group of Saiyans. What? The god of the Earth was puzzled, and didn't know what the King of the North was talking about. At this moment, all the Saiyans and Popo present had already felt the abnormality of the god of the Earth and cast their eyes on him. The next second, everyone could hear the voice of the North King. Saiyans, you are in big trouble. I don't know how you attracted the pursuit of the Universe Emperor Frieza, but now Frieza is looking for you all over the galaxy. It has caused great suffering to all living things, and many planets have been destroyed. If this continues, not only will more planets be destroyed, many races will be completely extinct, and it won't be long before Frieza's army will find the Earth. You are in big trouble. When the North King said this, he was actually thinking about countermeasures in his heart. He couldn't let Frieza's army do Theats's wanton behavior. After all, there are too many planets destroyed, and even too many lives have been destroyed. How can he tolerate such a thing happening on his own territory? But he was somewhat powerless, mainly because the Frieza core was too strong, so strong that he felt a little desperate. Especially Frieza. That is the real cosmic devil. Hearing the words of the North King, all the Saiyans changed their faces. After all, they also knew how powerful Frieza was. Their fighting power is no longer what it used to be. But Frieza will always be a stone weighing on their hearts. Even their boss Mu Chuan, who seemed to be going all out, could not compete with Frieza, who was a terrifying monster with a real strength of 120 million. However, they did not know that Frieza's moves had been reborn. After all, after being severely taught a lesson by Gyula, if he did not improve his strength, he would be really useless. And for the arrogant Frieza, he didn't want to be weaker than anyone. Carl said solemnly, "Are you serious? Frieza is conducting a carpet search to find us." Of course, according to Frieza's army, they are looking for the Saiyans who destroyed the mecha team. This should be you, right? King Kai of the North said, and when he said this, he was shocked. Mecha team. Isn't that Gyula's special forces? And it's even more terrifying than the Ginyu force. Can this group of Saiyans really do it? He was a little skeptical, but among all the Saiyans, it seems that there are only a few left, and the rest of the princes of planet Vegeta can't reach this level. The only possibility is this group of Saiyans. King Kai of the North's words completely confirmed their thoughts. If nothing unexpected happens, Frieza is looking for them. They were silent for a moment. A huge pressure came completely. Who can beat Frieza? Not to mention the Saiyans, even the North King Kai was powerless and fell into silence. On the contrary, the gods and Popo were puzzled. Are the so-called Frieza and Frieza's army really so terrifying? Even the King Kai, who is one level higher than him, and the group of terrifying cosmic people in front of him fell into silence. This immediately made them curious. Is that Frieza really that terrifying? After a long silence, the god finally asked the question in his heart, which could silence the King Kai, who was one level higher than him, and the terrifying cosmic people in front of him. That should be very difficult. But he couldn't figure out what kind of existence could have such a terrifying deterrent power. The Saiyans hadn't answered yet. King Kai said, "It's more than terrifying. You have to know that the universe is very vast, and the universe is divided into major galaxies, and each galaxy has very terrifying existences. And we are currently in the North Galaxy, and Frieza is the cosmic emperor of the North Galaxy, commanding various evil forces. For example, these Saiyans in front of you, in front of Frieza, they can't even compare to a finger." In order to let the God and Popo accurately understand the horror of Frieza, the North King Kai even made a comparison with the Saiyans. All the Saiyans did not refute this, because they knew very well how terrifying Frieza was. Otherwise, how could they come to this remote Earth to practice? Perhaps they used the control of Chi. But more of it was to avoid Frieza, but they never expected that Frieza would come all the way to find them. Facing the silence of the Saiyans, Tien Shen and Popo were shocked. Any of these Saiyans could destroy the Earth at will. But, such a powerful Saiyan could not even match Frieza. For a moment, Tien Shen and Popo were speechless. Tien Shen and Popo's reaction did not stop the North Kai King from explaining. Under Frieza's command, there is a very terrifying team, that is the Ginyu Force, which is only slightly inferior to the Mecha team, but any one of them has tens of thousands of combat power. It is a very terrifying team, and this is not the main point. He has many terrifying aliens under his command. If we continue to sweep, we will definitely find the Earth in a short time. If Frieza shows up in person at that time, it will be really bad. At this moment, everyone present can clearly feel the anxiety of King Kai of the North. Not only King Kai of the North, many Saiyans present have already felt a sense of urgency, and the pressure seems to be coming from all directions. The joy at the beginning is gone. But just when they were overwhelmed by this pressure and almost suffocated. With a bang, the door of the Spirit Time House was opened. A disheveled man walked out of it, and it was Mu Chuan. After a year of training in the Spirit Time House, his aura became more restrained, but when he exploded, that was truly terrifying. When he came out, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. All the Saiyans seemed to have found their backbone, and they couldn't help but smile. "Boss, you finally came out." Everyone looked at Mu Chuan. Tien Shen and Bobo were also pulled back to their thoughts, just looking at Mu Chuan. The more they looked, the more surprised they were, although the aura was very restrained. But they felt a vigorous power. This kind of power was not released. If it exploded, it would definitely be quite terrifying. You know, before entering the Spirit Time House, a very terrifying aura had already exploded. Now that he has been in the Spirit Time House for a year, how terrifying would it be? No one can imagine it. The god looked at Mu Chuan, and his eyes revealed a little bit of complexity. Mu Chuan, although you have come out of the Spiritual Time House, it is worth celebrating, but now there is a very bad news. I wonder if you want to listen. Mu Chuan waved his hand. God, you don't have to say more, I can hear it. King Kai of the North, I am the current leader of the Saiyans, thank you very much for your information. I will solve the problem of Frieza, and all you need to do now is to tell me where he is. It is not my habit to sit and wait for death. King Kai of the North's voice transmission covered the entire Temple of the Gods, so Mu Chuan also heard the voice of King Kai of the North. Because of this, he also felt a little surprised. I never thought that because of him, the development trajectory of the Dragon Ball world had such a big change, but he didn't think too much about it. The improvement of one's own combat power is the main thing, and the rest is secondary. Hearing Mu Chuan's words, King Kai of the North was stunned. Are you kidding me? Do you know how terrifying Frieza is? Mu Chuan moved his hands. He put his foot down and said calmly, of course I know how terrifying Frieza is. That's why I have to go there in person. And I also want to verify my current combat effectiveness. It just so happens that my training has reached a bottleneck. Without a good opponent, there is no way to promote my improvement. King Kai of the North, you don't need to say more. When King Kai of the North was about to speak again, Mu Chuan quickly blocked his mouth. We have been under Frieza before, so we naturally know how terrifying he is. At the same time, we can solve the mecha team under Frieza's brother Gyula, so we naturally know how terrifying their race is. It can be said that we know better than anyone else. Hurry up, don't waste time. Otherwise, it will cause more irreparable consequences. Mu Chuan didn't want to talk nonsense anymore. Not to mention that he didn't want to cause too many casualties because of them. At the same time, after just walking out of the Spirit Time House, he really wanted to feel his current combat effectiveness. He has an intuitive value. But he couldn't feel his combat power directly. He needed a reference, and Frieza was the best candidate. Host: Mu Chuan. Age: 17. Bloodline: Saiyan bloodline. Sign in. Already signed in. Can sign in randomly once a day. Combat power: 14,500,000. Skills: Transformation skill, Sabo, regeneration of broken limbs, demon transformation. He took a rare look at the system information, and the rest didn't change much, even though the combat power had reached 14 million. But this was not a big surprise for him, it was common. On the contrary, he was slightly surprised to see the age here. He didn't expect that he had grown a year older without realizing it. Another long time passed in this Dragon Ball world. Indeed, in this vast Dragon Ball world, excitement and adventure are everywhere. This is the life he should enjoy. When he was admiring his personal information alone, the heavenly palace fell into silence. Everyone present, including the King of the North, were shocked by his words. My God! Facing such a terrifying cosmic emperor, he could remain calm and even wanted to take the initiative to attack. How confident is he in his combat power? Popo and the gods did not have a clear concept, so they naturally did not know how ridiculous Mu Chuan's decision was. As for the other Saiyans, although they were also shocked, they chose to believe their boss. It was because of Mu Chuan that they were able to survive until now. Otherwise, there would be no breakthrough in combat power. Maybe when they were on planet Vegeta, they would have been destroyed along with planet Vegeta, and there would be no them today. Therefore, they chose to believe. On the contrary, King Kai was silent for a while. In the end, he could only say helplessly, since you have made such a choice, there is no need for me to stop you. But I can declare in advance that no matter what the result is, it is none of my business. Don't worry, this is our personal grudge. At this point, King Kai stopped talking. Detecting in all directions, looking for Frieza's exact position. After all, Frieza's movement speed is also quite fast. Not to mention looking for people. While the North King was busy, Mu Chuan said to the Saiyans, you should have mastered the Chi, right? Everyone nodded. Ahena took the lead and said, we just tested it. On the basis of the original combat power, we can burst out more than double the combat power. You are worthy of being the boss. You actually know that there is such a skill. The way we fought before is simply too crude. If we learn it earlier, then our improvement will be faster. Many Saiyans talked one after another, sharing their excitement. After all, the improvement of combat power is something worth celebrating for them. Facing the excited words of many Saiyans, Mu Chuan smiled calmly. In that case, your next task is to enter the Spirit Time House. As for how to arrange it, you decide for yourself. The Spirit Time House has a very terrifying time flow rate. 1 day outside is 1 year inside. After practicing for 1 year inside, your combat power is estimated to reach a very terrifying level. If your combat power can reach 1 million, then I can teach you to master the ultimate power of the Saiyans. In his opinion, if you want to truly become a Super Saiyan, you must at least have a combat power of 1 million as a foundation. Otherwise, it will be useless. Therefore, he also hopes that these Saiyans can improve their strength as soon as possible. Instead of having to force him to do it. Many Saiyans were shocked when they heard the words of their boss. 1 million combat power. Their current combat power is only 10,000 or 20,000. That means they have to increase it by nearly 100 times, which is too outrageous. But they did not refute, and at the same time they also noticed the so-called spiritual time house. No wonder. No wonder the boss came here, not only because there is a way to control the use of Qi, but also because of the magical spiritual time. 1 day outside is 1 year inside. With enough time, wouldn't it be very easy to reach a combat power of 1 million? At this moment, they are confident again. I promise not to let you down, boss. They promised one after another. Of course, they didn't want to go in directly at this moment. After all, they knew what Mu Chuan was going to do next. So they all waited quietly. After a long time, The voice of the North Kai King sounded again. I have found Frieza's location, and now I will teleport you. It is not far from the Earth. Based on the speed of your spacecraft, it will arrive in nearly 2 days. If there is an accident, it may arrive in 1 day, because Frieza is heading towards the Earth, and maybe we will meet him halfway. Mu Chuan suddenly had a certain location in his mind, which was where Frieza was now, and there was also a dynamic view. Slowly approaching. After getting the location, Mu Chuan first instructed all the Saiyans to enter the Spirit Time House to practice as soon as possible. As for Frieza, that was not something they could control now. Then he left in a hurry. Seeing their boss leave like this, they felt mixed emotions. If they were stronger, they could still participate. But because of their weak strength, there was no chance to participate. After all, Frieza's first form had a combat power of 53. 10,000, not to mention the several forms behind. This is something they can't match. Looking at Mu Chuan disappearing in the sky, everyone was silent for a while. It's time to practice hard. As the boss said, if you don't reach 1 million combat power, it will be a bit difficult to even follow him. If you can really reach 1 million combat power, you may still be able to participate in this kind of battle. You can't drag your feet anymore. Carl and Greta looked at each other. Then they walked towards the direction of the Spirit Time House. The others watched silently, and then they all started practicing on the spot. Looking at the performance of the Saiyans, Popo and the God of Heaven looked at each other, and they couldn't participate at all, so they could only do their own things. After leaving the Temple of the God of Heaven, Mu Chuan boarded his spaceship. He didn't plan to really reach where Frieza was. He wanted to find a desolate planet, especially the road that Frieza had to pass. Choose a favorable place as a battlefield. He thought that his current fighting power was stronger than Frieza, and it was no problem to defeat Frieza in seconds. But Frieza had an advantage in the universe and could survive in the vacuum of the universe, which he could not do, so he would never let himself be in danger. Taking the initiative means taking the initiative. Choose any place as a battlefield. The spaceship sailed towards Frieza's direction. On the North Kai King planet. The North Kai King watched silently, although he felt that this was quite chaotic, but so what? The Saiyans were originally an evil race, and it was a great blessing to be able to speak calmly, although this evil could not be compared with Frieza. But they were not kind after all. Who knows if he angered this group of terrifying Saiyans, and then they would come to cause trouble, and it would be over. Therefore, the North Kai King could only pray that nothing would happen, otherwise the North Galaxy would be over. I hope everything will go in a good direction. Don't let any more accidents happen. My little heart can't bear it. Haven't you found the traitors yet? Frieza was floating outside the spaceship, looking at the aliens in front of him with a friendly face. Although he acted friendly, only the people in Frieza's army knew that King Frieza was a moody person. A disagreement could cost him his life. Therefore, the aliens trembled and replied, King, we have already swept the places where the Saiyans passed. But, oh, is that so? Frieza's tail suddenly stretched out, wrapped around the alien, and pulled him over. The alien was completely panicked. He was scared out of his wits in an instant. My lord, please spare me, my lord, please spare me. We have tried our best, but without an accurate direction, it is indeed difficult to find. We can only use more manpower and time. Please give me some time, my lord. Perhaps because he was facing death, this alien spoke fluently in an instant. However, Frieza, who was furious, could not tolerate any mistakes. He used his tail to throw the alien into outer space. With a loud bang, he smashed a planet directly. He was killed on the spot. The rest of the aliens were also panicked at this moment. They didn't dare to say anything, and they didn't even dare to tremble, for fear of causing Frieza's dissatisfaction. A bunch of trash. It took so long to find a few stinky monkeys, what's the use of you? Frieza's momentum was quite terrifying, and the aliens present lowered their heads suddenly, not daring to look directly at him. At this time, a spaceship flew back, and Sabo walked down from it. My king, an unknown strong man appeared in front of us. When I reported your name, he threatened to let you pass. Faced with such an arrogant person, I naturally cannot let him do whatever he wants, but all the people I sent were killed in an instant. I have no choice but to report. Sabo told the information in front of him, and even feared being vented on his anger. After he finished speaking, he stood silently. Frieza's tail swung, and ripples appeared in the vacuum of the universe. It can be seen how terrifying his power is at this time, and he is really angry. The calmer it is, the more angry it is. Oh, wow, interesting, it's really interesting. It's true that no matter what kind of stuff dares to challenge my universe Emperor Frieza, it seems that if the lives in this universe don't feel what fear is, they don't know who is their emperor. He was very angry. Very angry. So much so that his breath was surging in an instant. Even the spaceship was ignored. With a bang, the whole person was ejected. In a flash, all the planets on the way were destroyed, and those that were slightly closer were severely damaged. The natives on many planets were reduced to ashes. Only the planets that were farther away were spared. When the North King saw this, his heart was in pain, but he had no way to stop it. He could only pray silently that Mu Chuan could really deal with Frieza. Otherwise, the problem would be big. That's right. The person who blocked the road was Mu Chuan. In order to avoid being at a disadvantage, he would never fight against the enemy in the vacuum of the universe, because that would be comparing his own shortcomings with others' strengths. Besides, Frieza was not weak. When Frieza went forward and came to the area reported by Sabo, he saw a figure from a distance, and that figure looked so tall. Although he could not feel the air, he could feel the inexplicable aura. He looked intently. Frieza laughed. He laughed heartily. Ha 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 ha. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. I've been looking for you for so long, but I didn't expect you stinky monkeys to be here, and you dared to challenge me. Interesting, so interesting. But, I'm more curious, why do you dare to show up? Facing Frieza, Mu Chuan was relatively calm. After all, it was different from the past. He already had the real fighting power to face Frieza. Because I heard you were looking for me, so I came out. Long time no see, my king. Frieza was stunned. He never expected that it would be such a result. Doesn't this Saiyan know the consequences of being found by him? I like you more and more. After a moment of stunned, Frieza seemed particularly calm. If you hadn't angered me, I would have made you the second only to me in this universe. Unfortunately. But you can defeat the mecha team, which means you are indeed he is quite capable, but, that's all. I'll give you a chance to live, so you must cherish it. What if I say no? Mu Chuan was a little annoyed. After all, if Frieza continued to talk, he really didn't know when he would finish. Moreover, after Frieza appeared, he obviously noticed the difference in Frieza. If it were in the past, Frieza should still be in the first form, and he would always be sitting in a small aircraft. But now what appeared in front of him was Frieza's ultimate form. Although it didn't fully explode, he could vaguely feel a little different. Very terrifying aura. It's even stronger than he expected. It's really different. Is it because I, a time traveler, flapped the wings of the butterfly that caused the change in history? Logically speaking, Frieza has not yet completely controlled his power, and can only slowly release his original power through transformation. But now he appears in front of me, but he has been maintaining his final form. Doesn't that mean that at least he has mastered all his power? And more than that, at this moment, Mu Chuan suddenly became alert, because Frieza's change made him clearly know that everything in his memory might not be practical. When he lost the information of omniscience, he could only rely on his existing skills and his own combat power to solve it. Only then did he feel Frieza's power through Chi. The next second, Mu Chuan clearly felt a very terrifying breath hidden in Frieza's body, which might really come from the frozen demon clan. From the original ease and calmness to the current vigilance, the change was so rapid. Speed. Of course, he did not back down because of this, but became excited, although he already knew clearly that Frieza was very strong. But according to the power in the original book, Frieza only has a combat power of just over 100 million, which is simply incomparable to him, and there is no way to make her have a more enjoyable battle. But Frieza's change gave him hope. Enjoyable battle. He just needs an enjoyable battle to break through the bottleneck, otherwise the basic combat power will be difficult to improve, and the Super Saiyan can only stay at the basic level. The appearance of Frieza is the opportunity. Bang! Mu Chuan, whose blood was boiling in his heart, made a decisive move and blasted out a Qigong wave. The whole universe was instantly lit up. Frieza had just looked excited, but in an instant, the expression on his face froze. It was as if his eyes were going to kill someone. You monkey! Frieza turned his body to the side, and his tail swung over, deflecting the Qigong wave. Although the lethality was not high, it was extremely insulting. Anger rose immediately. I think you are tired of living. Swoosh. In a flash, Frieza disappeared from the spot in a flash, and then appeared behind Mu Chuan and punched him. Mu Chuan grabbed Frieza's fist with his backhand, pushed it forward, and smashed Frieza into the planet. This punch has at least tens of millions of combat power. Frieza not only fully mastered his own power, but also improved it. At this time, he felt extremely fortunate. If it weren't for the sense of urgency in his heart, he wouldn't have entered the Spirit Time House to practice, and he wouldn't have such a terrifying improvement. If he didn't have such a strong combat power. Facing Frieza, he really could only passively take a beating. At this time, Frieza was smashed into the planet because of negligence, and the whole person was in a state of confusion. Even though he clearly knew that the combat power of this Saiyan was already very strong, after all, he could destroy the mecha team, which meant that his combat power had at least reached hundreds of thousands. But Frieza never thought that now he could master his own power, but he still couldn't easily solve the opponent. What's going on? Lying in the crater, Frieza was a little confused. The North Kai King far away on the North Kai King planet. When they saw the battle started, they suddenly became extremely nervous, because this might determine how the Northern Galaxy would be treated. When Mu Chuan knocked Frieza into the planet, he immediately showed an expression of disbelief. How is this possible? Why is the combat power of this Saiyan so strong? That is the Emperor of the Universe, Frieza, and he is using his most powerful form. He is still at a disadvantage. This Saiyan is too outrageous. At this time, the North Kai King was shocked. No one knew Frieza's horror better than him, but because of this, he was very surprised when he saw Mu Chuan fighting back. There was actually someone who could withstand Frieza's attack and even made Frieza suffer. How strong was this combat power? Of course, he didn't know at all. He was just testing each other just now. If Frieza really used all his strength, Mu Chuan couldn't fight back so easily, and he was still at an advantage. Watching Frieza not appear for a long time, Mu Chuan gathered a huge Qigong wave in his hand, looking at the planet below, with a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. Frieza, I know you can't be defeated so easily. Get out of here. Oh, it's getting more and more interesting. You are stronger than I thought, much stronger. Frieza slowly flew up from the giant pit, gently wiped the blood on his face with his hand, and excitement filled his face. You may really become the legendary Super Saiyan. But I won't give you a chance. It can be said that after being taught a lesson by Gyula, Frieza seemed to have opened his mind and was not too arrogant. Although he also wanted to see what the legendary Super Saiyan was like, he didn't dare to try it in his heart. Therefore, Frieza was ready to end the battle. But after Frieza finished speaking, Mu Chuan crushed the Qigong wave in his hand, and the Qi immediately flowed back into his body. He looked strange at this time. Is there a possibility that I don't need you to give me a chance at all? Huh. Frieza was stunned. King Kai of the North was also stunned, and a certain premonition popped up in his heart. The next second, Mu Chuan's body was filled with golden light, his qi was exploding, his hair began to stand up, and his pupils gradually began to turn golden. In an instant, when his qi reached the critical point, it exploded all of a sudden. His hair completely turned golden, and his body was filled with golden light, and his aura directly soared 50 times. The original combat power of 14.5 million. At this moment, it soared 50 times. Reached a combat power of 725 million. When he became a Super Saiyan, the entire northern galaxy began to tremble, even the extremely distant planets seemed to be able to feel the extremely terrifying aura emanating from him. Even on the distant North Kai King planet, the North Kai King could deeply feel the extremely terrifying aura. The premonition just now was realized. He was stunned to feel the terrifying aura, as if he was in the scene. My God. This is incredible. I didn't expect that the legendary Super Saiyan was actually real, and it was realized by this Saiyan. Doesn't that mean that it is not impossible to defeat Frieza? After the shock, Joy followed, and even made the North Kai King jump a few times on the spot, showing his inner excitement. Although the Saiyans are also evil, judging from the actions of Mu Chuan and others, they are at least much better than Frieza. Frieza is an evil who does all kinds of evil and is crazy. On the contrary, although this group of Saiyans are equally evil, they can be controlled and will not destroy the world. Therefore, it is natural to compare which is more important. At the moment when Mu Chuan transformed into a Super Saiyan. On the distant Earth. All those who control the aura feel that there is a very huge atmosphere in the distant universe. This aura has spread to the Earth. Tianxian and Bobo looked at each other, and saw a touch of shock in each other's eyes. Is this Mu Chuan's aura too strong? This aura is really too strong, countless times stronger than when he just came to the Earth, and it can be transmitted to the Earth in such a distant universe. With such a terrifying aura, it should be able to deal with the so-called Cosmic Emperor, right? They were really shocked. This terrifying aura is simply unprecedented. And now, they have personally felt it, and they know clearly how terrifying the Saiyans are. If it was an enemy, who could defeat him? However, when they thought they had won, another more powerful and evil aura suddenly descended. It was as if it was colliding with Mu Chuan's aura. In an instant, Tianxian and Bobo, who had been extremely confident just now, were silent at this time, and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. Is this, the Emperor of the Universe? Mu Chuan's transformation was particularly abrupt, which frightened everyone, even Frieza, who was frightened at this moment. A shocked expression. However, after the shock, Frieza became more serious than ever. At first, he was teasing. But now he has realized the seriousness of the problem, especially Mu Chuan's transformation, plus the sudden change in that moment. He has clearly realized. Super Saiyan is not a legend. But it really exists. The stinky monkey in front of him has truly completed the Super Saiyan transformation. With the transformation, his combat power has suddenly jumped to such a terrifying level that even he, the Emperor of the Universe, feels a suffocating sense of oppression. It can be seen how terrifying his combat power is. Frieza took a deep breath, calmed his heart, then moved his hands and feet, and looked up at Mu Chuan in the distance. I see. No wonder you have the guts to challenge me, you've turned into a Super Saiyan. It's really surprising, but do you really think you can beat me after turning into a Super Saiyan? You're totally wrong. Maybe I might have lost in the past, but since that day, I've decided not to lose again. No matter who it is, I can't let you surrender. Frieza roared. The purple light on his body permeated and enveloped his whole body, and then a little silver-white lightning gradually began to emerge from his body. If you look closely, you can definitely see that there is a little bit of shiny luster on the surface of his skin. At the same time, his breath is soaring, and his fighting power is increasing. It has increased several times in an instant. Even Mu Chuan, who has turned into a Super Saiyan, feels extremely solemn after feeling Frieza's power. This Frieza is really different. The fighting power has at least increased by 5 or 6 times. At this moment, Mu Chuan didn't know what he felt. But he knew that it was fortunate that he had mastered the first stage of Super Saiyan transformation, otherwise he would not be able to fight against Frieza with the mimic Super Saiyan. You are worthy of being my king. A vague sigh. Mu Chuan disappeared from the spot, and the next second he appeared behind Frieza, and suddenly punched out, and at the same time, several consecutive Qigong waves blasted out. Frieza seemed to have noticed it long ago. He dodged it in an instant, and as for those continuous Qigong waves, they couldn't even touch a hair on his body. The battle went back and forth. The speed was quite fast, but because their fighting power was too exaggerated, the entire planet had been destroyed. Now this was on a huge rock, fighting back and forth, but as time went on, Mu Chuan felt that he was a little out of breath. It was only after the planet was destroyed that his crisis really came. Even though his fighting power was slightly stronger than Frieza's, he had no way to deal with Frieza in a short time. Moreover, when the planet was destroyed, he would really fall into a disadvantage. The battle lasted for a quarter of an hour. No, we can't continue like this. Once the planet is completely destroyed, I will be completely exposed to the vacuum of the universe. Frieza has the blood of the frozen demon clan and can survive in the vacuum of the universe, but I can't. Then it will be over. When he realized the seriousness of the problem, Mu Chuan consciously controlled his power. After all, he didn't want the planet to be destroyed so quickly. It was not realistic to board the spaceship. But when he was a little restrained, Frieza just seized the opportunity, grabbed Mu Chuan with both hands and feet, and suddenly smashed towards the center of the earth. You can't do it either. Is this the legendary Super Saiyan? If it's just this, it's too disappointing. Show us your real ability. Frieza, who was slightly in the upper hand, laughed triumphantly. Bang! A loud noise. Mu Chuan rushed out from the center of the earth. There were some scars on his body, but they were not too serious for him. It would take time to defeat Frieza. And this battlefield was not suitable. This made him exhausted and he didn't dare to cause any destruction. This side made him always at a disadvantage. After a fight, from the initial recklessness to the current restraint, Frieza soon knew the reason. Oh, ha 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 ha. I know why you don't dare to make a move. Quote. Are you afraid of the planet being destroyed? Once the planet is destroyed, you will not be able to survive in the vacuum of the universe. No wonder. No wonder you didn't dare to cause large-scale destruction from the beginning. Logically, your combat power is not weak. As a legendary Super Saiyan, your combat power is naturally not weak. Although it is slightly worse than this king, it can't be so much worse. What a pity. You don't dare to make a move. Quote. Ha 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 ha. Frieza laughed so hard that he fell backwards, which was quite refreshing. But I don't have the same concerns as you. This king has the blood of the most noble frozen demon family. I can survive in the vacuum of the universe since birth. Even if I don't stay on the planet, I can walk freely in the vacuum. This is where this king is better than you. Quote. Frieza was particularly proud. During this time, he deliberately sent out several destructive rays, each of which was heading towards the center of the planet. It looked as if he wanted to destroy the entire planet. However, Mu Chuan did not let him succeed. He sent out several Qigong waves to directly block the path of the destructive rays. They cancelled each other out, and then all the destructive rays were completely blocked. Of course, this also angered him. Originally, he did have some concerns. After all, in a vacuum, his advantages could be said to be gone. But now, Frieza actually used this to control him. How could he tolerate this? It seems that we can only make a quick decision. Quote. Mu Chuan's eyes narrowed. Even though he knew that the destruction of the planet would bring an unparalleled crisis, he was ready to fight quickly. His aura suddenly surged. With a bang, the golden light on his body became more intense, as if no breath could penetrate it, and his aura also suddenly surged. Boom. Like a sonic boom, the whole person disappeared instantly. The next second, he punched Frieza hard, knocking Frieza into the sky, and then he was in the air again, contacting Fu Li and kicking him down. Frieza was still in a daze, and he hadn't reacted yet, and he was being blasted like a ball. When Frieza was being beaten like a ball. In the distance. The Frieza army came late. When they saw the fierce breath erupting from the planet in front of them from a distance, they did not dare to approach easily. Sabo and Papalia immediately ordered other cosmic people. Observe all the information in front, see what happened in front, and who King Frieza is fighting with. Take out the latest detector, the most advanced and advanced one. Then, after a while, the picture in front has been transmitted. Although the picture is not clear, it can be seen that Frieza is being beaten up, and he is caught every time, but he can't get out of control. This scene shocked everyone. When have they ever seen King Frieza in such an embarrassing scene? And after training, King Frieza can already maintain his ultimate form, and his combat effectiveness has been improved. He is still at a disadvantage. Who is this guy? Is this fake? How could King Frieza be at a disadvantage? Bring me the detector. Sabo roared, his body trembling. If King Frieza really fell into a disadvantage or lost, then everything they had would be in vain. This frightened them. Soon, a toad-faced alien brought a very large detector, which was larger than most spaceships. After all, the most advanced machine that could detect more massive data was needed, and there was only this kind of detector, which was not very convenient. As Sabo operated, numbers gradually began to appear on the detector. First aimed at Frieza. Ding 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 ding. In the end, the combat power remained at 700 million. When seeing this combat power, everyone present widened their eyes, although they knew that King Frieza was terrifying. But they would never have thought. The combat power would be as high as 700 million. This is too exaggerated. King Frieza's fighting power is so terrifying. Sabo muttered softly. Even they didn't know Frieza's true fighting power. Previously, they only knew that Frieza's first form had a fighting power of 530,000, and they didn't know much about it. At this moment, facing Frieza at full strength, no matter who it was, they would feel a very terrifying pressure, and then pointed the detector at Mu Chuan. The next second, a long string of numbers appeared. What? How is it possible? Who is this guy? This string of numbers is Mu Chuan's fighting power. At this moment, his fighting power is as high as 850 million, which is 150 million higher than Frieza. After the real fighting power appeared, everyone present was really confused. If King Frieza had such a terrifying fighting power, they could still understand it. After all, he is the emperor of the universe. But now, a strange guy appeared at random, and he actually had a more terrifying fighting power than Frieza. How could they accept this? So much so that they could not calm down for a long time. However, Sabo and Papalia looked at each other continuously, and finally looked at each other, and said uncertainly, "Why do you feel that the guy fighting against the king is a bit like the Wandering Saiyan?" "Yes, I have this feeling too." At this moment, they had a faint guess in their hearts, and even recalled the story that King Frieza had told them. Legend has it that among the Saiyans, there is a very terrifying existence. This terrifying existence stands out from the top existence of the Saiyans, and can also become the so-called legendary Super Saiyan. Once it becomes a Super Saiyan, it will be the natural nemesis of the Frozen Demon clan. And Frieza is a Frozen Demon clan. The two felt that things were getting more and more outrageous. Mu Chuang had no intention of paying attention to everything about the Frieza core in the distance. He just wanted to make a quick decision. But the more anxious you are, the easier it is to make mistakes. The entire planet was destroyed. Now there are only a lot of meteorites left, and the entire planet is in a mess. It can be said that when these larger meteorites are destroyed, then he will fall into the vacuum of the universe, but she did not hesitate at all at this time, because once she hesitated, she would lose. That is the opportunity given to Frieza. He doesn't want to. Frieza is in trouble, with blood all over his body, and even one of his arms has been completely broken. Looks quite embarrassed. But, Frieza was also ruthless. Even though his body was a little damaged now, he still fought without any slackness. He fought desperately. He fired destructive rays frequently, and even attacked Muchuan directly with destructive rays, and finally both of them had their arms pierced by destructive rays. Even so, Frieza did not stop. He grabbed Muchuan and flew directly to outer space, as if he was going to pull him into outer space to fight. The advantages and disadvantages were clear at a glance. Frieza naturally wanted to use his advantages to end the battle as soon as possible. And the same was true for Muchuan. "You stinky monkey, this planet has been completely destroyed. As long as the two huge meteorites under your feet collapse, you will be officially exposed to the vacuum of the universe. See how you can fight this king. Accept your fate. I will really bury you in this universe." Ha 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 ha. Frieza laughed loudly, as if victory was in sight, even though he looked particularly miserable and embarrassed at this time. But for him, victory often brings him joy. However, in his expectation, Mu Chuan should have a panic expression, but now the other party's face showed a trace of weirdness and complexity. This made him a little stunned. It was completely unclear whether Mu Chuan was scared or confident. In fact, it was not that Mu Chuan was scared. But just now the system prompt sounded again, and the sound of the system prompt sound made him forget his current situation. Because, the system is truly reliable for once. During this battle, he actually signed in for what he had always dreamed of. Ding! Time is up, sign in successfully. Sign in reward the blood of the Frozen Demon clan. When the sign in was successful, Mu Chuan immediately possessed the blood of the Frozen Demon clan, not to mention how much his combat talent and combat power have improved. Just say that his current physique can already move completely in the vacuum of the universe, and he doesn't have to worry about whether he is on a planet. And this is exactly what he needs. What's going on? The Saiyan's combat power is skyrocketing, increasing at a very fast speed. Is there something wrong with the detector? Suddenly, Sabo, who had been looking at the detector, exclaimed, which immediately attracted everyone's attention. Paporia pushed away the other cosmic people. How is this possible? 900 million combat power. 910 million combat power. 920 million combat power. Still increasing, still skyrocketing. At this time, everyone was shocked. Originally, there were 850 million combat power, which was already breaking through the sky. But now, for some reason, it is still skyrocketing. This is too scary, isn't it? For the cosmic people present, as well as Sabo and Paporia, hundreds of thousands of combat power are already unimaginable horrors, not to mention breaking through 100 million. This can only be achieved by the Frozen Demon clan. But now it's different. A Saiyan actually reached this point, and far surpassed Frieza, which also made everyone present panic and desperate. Then, Paporia seemed to realize it late, and quickly aimed the detector at Frieza, but it was different from what he expected. Frieza's combat power did not change. There was even a slight decline. At this moment, even if they suspected that there was something wrong with the detector, the facts were in front of them, and they could not help but believe it. The shock in their hearts was beyond words. When many cosmic people were shocked. The North Kai King, who was far away on the North Kai King planet, was also shocked at this moment. No matter how he thought about it, he never thought that the development of things would be so unexpected. That Saiyan could not only compete with Frieza, but also beat Frieza. Now, the battle has turned around. That Saiyan actually has the upper hand. The aura is obviously stronger than Frieza. This is really incredible. Oh my, the world has changed, the world has changed. The Universe Emperor Frieza is actually defeated by a Saiyan, this world. After being shocked, the North Kai King couldn't help but sigh, silently watching the scene of the battle, and the whole person fell silent. He didn't know whether it was good or bad. I always feel that things have completely gone out of control, but no matter who wins, it seems that it is not the best choice. Saiyans and Frieza are not easy to deal with. This can't help but make him worried. Let's not talk about the others. After the sign-in system gave a boost, Chuan obtained the blood of the Frozen Demon clan, and he really felt full of energy. The combat power soared in an instant. He didn't need others to tell him, he knew that the combat power was soaring, and it was increasing at a speed that even he felt quite shocked. But now, he did not break free from Frieza's restraints, but let Frieza drag him, because he needed to use these few seconds to understand his new combat power. When he arrived in outer space, Frieza let go of his hand, and slowly raised one hand, looking like he was sure of victory. Stinky monkey, welcome your miserable fate. In this vacuum of the universe, I will be truly invincible, no matter how powerful your combat power is, but in the vacuum of the universe, only I, Frieza, am the only emperor of the universe. You, just wait to be swallowed by the universe. Frieza was too disdainful to take action at this moment. Waiting for Chuan to be swallowed by the universe. However, after a few seconds, the scene he expected did not appear, but Chuan looked at him with a playful smile. Frieza suddenly felt something was wrong. There was a hint of ominous premonition. What's wrong with you? Faced with Frieza's questioning, Chuan threw his hands, and golden light surged all over his body, and at the same time, there was a faint purple lightning. Purple lightning rose from the inside out. Don't you realize that there is a kind of breath similar to yours in my body? Chuan burst out his breath without reservation. His fighting power is also soaring. A violent explosion suddenly came from a distance. It turned out that the new detector of Sabo and others was completely destroyed. Just now, Chuan's fighting power had reached 1.1 billion, directly reaching the critical value, and the detector was blown up in an instant. And the group of cosmic people were stunned on the spot. They were completely dumbfounded there. There were even a few guys mumbling. 1.1 billion. 1.1 billion. 1.1 billion. Chuan turned his head and took a look. He was no longer interested in the top ones. At this time, Frieza felt it carefully, and finally his arrogant face suddenly revealed fear and horror. No. No. Impossible. It turned out to be the blood of the Frozen Demon clan. What a joke. How could a stinky monkey like you have the blood of the Frozen Demon clan? What's wrong with you? Quote. He absolutely did not believe that a Saiyan would have Saiyan blood and the blood of the frozen demon clan flowing in his body at the same time. You know, the frozen demon clan cannot be mixed-blooded, so this is simply impossible. But just now, he really felt the blood of the frozen demon clan in Mu Chuan's body. This made Frieza confused. Facing the confused Frieza, Mu Chuan smiled softly. He would not make any explanation. The more he talked, the more unlucky he would be. As the saying goes, villains die because of talking too much. Besides, he could not explain his situation to anyone, so let others guess it. Mu Chuan moved instantly, and it only took 0.1 seconds. Before Frieza could react, he punched him and sent him flying. Then he caught it and threw the ball again, but this time his fighting power became even more terrifying, much stronger than Frieza. Frieza didn't even have a chance to fight back. The injuries on his body, it was getting heavier and heavier. Originally only one arm was broken, but now even the tail was broken by 2/3, and the whole body became tattered. It can be said that the appearance was quite miserable. Where was the demeanor of the Emperor of the Universe? Those aliens in the distance had already run as far as they could. When Frieza was defeated, how could they still stay where they were? Wouldn't that mean they were throwing their lives away? They didn't even have time to be shocked, and they were all just running for their lives. Of course, in the aftermath, most of the aliens were also destroyed. It was true that the battle between the two had affected too many people. Fortunately, there were some desolate planets around, and there were no habitable planets, otherwise it would definitely cause real suffering. The battle between Frieza and Mu Chuan showed a one-sided trend. Frieza, the Emperor of the Universe, was like a dead dog at this time, allowing people to rub him, and his pride and anger had long since disappeared. The light in his eyes was slightly dissipated, as if the light had dimmed, and his breath became extremely chaotic. How is this possible? Impossible. Even though he was beaten miserably, Frieza still muttered. Still didn't believe it. I didn't believe that Mu Chuan had the blood of the frozen demon clan. No. No matter what happened to you, a dirty monkey, actually exuded the blood of the frozen demon clan. I won't allow this to happen. Frieza, who was already extremely miserable, suddenly roared at this moment and suddenly broke free from Mu Chuan's confinement. Then his eyes turned red, and a more evil force rose from his body, his veins bulged, and his muscles suddenly swelled up. The whole person was bigger, looking extremely explosive, and the energy light that was almost purple to black was filled around him. Seeing this scene, Mu Chuan silently took 2 steps back. Seeing the scene in front of him, he already knew that Frieza was ready to fight to the death. Isn't this Frieza's 100% power? The combat power has nearly doubled, but the speed is missing. The power is strong, but the speed is weak. Facing Frieza's instant improvement, Mu Chuan was not too panicked. At this moment, just by maintaining the posture of Super Saiyan, his combat power has reached 1.3 billion. What's more, he hasn't really exploded yet. When the blood of the Saiyans and the blood of the frozen demons are combined, it can be said that it is not 1 + 1 = 2, that is a real doubling. In this way, he feels that once he explodes, his power will definitely crush Frieza now. It was just unnecessary before. Now, when he saw that Frieza had already exploded with full power, Mu Chuan clenched his fists with both hands, and with a loud bang, the light on his body became more dazzling. The golden light covered his whole body, and the purple lightning spread more. His eyes gradually began to turn purple, and there was a faint breath like Frieza. His combat power also soared at this moment. Directly reached the critical point. 1.7 billion combat power. This is his most powerful combat power at present. Among them is the power of the combined blood of the Saiyans and the frozen demons. It can be said that it has more than doubled. No one dared to stay around them. The Frieza army was either destroyed or far away. Now, only King Kai of the North is still watching the entire battlefield, but at this time he has been shocked beyond words and can't even organize his own words. These two monsters are completely beyond his cognition. Frieza is fine. He is the famous Emperor of the Universe, but why can Mu Chuan do that? A Saiyan can actually burst out such a terrifying power. This is really surprising. Too scary. This is really too scary. Frieza, this demon, actually has such a terrifying power hidden. Even that Saiyan is not simple. Legend has it that among the Saiyans, there will be an extremely strong man who can become a Super Saiyan. He should be. But I didn't expect that the Super Saiyan would be so exaggerated. Even more terrifying than Frieza. The more the North Kai King watched, the more shocked he became. He gasped repeatedly on the North Kai King planet. The people far away on Earth. At this moment, they were numb. Two terrifying auras broke out in succession in the distant universe, and they surged every once in a while. This made them feel unprecedented pressure. Even though they were so far away, they all felt the terrifying aura on Earth, which made them breathless. Too strong, these two auras are too terrifying. Is this the aura of the Emperor of the Universe? Not only is it evil and terrifying, it can burst out continuously in a short period of time. If this kind of demon appears on the Earth, there is no way to save the Earth. It will definitely be destroyed by the other party. The god said in shock. Even Popo agreed very much. Of course, in comparison, the aura emitted by Muchuan is more terrifying. It is even more powerful than Frieza. It's just not that evil. But they dare not assert it. Muchuan and Frieza, who are in the center of the battle, don't care about other people's opinions. After a burst of anger, the battle has reached a white-hot level again. The battle level has been upgraded again, but Frieza is still at a disadvantage. Although his combat power has reached 1.5 billion, his speed is too slow. The destructive power is not as strong as Muchuan. It became more miserable for a while, not to mention that his injuries have not healed yet, making it extremely inconvenient for him to fight, and he is completely in a passive state of being beaten. Frieza, is this all your strength? Quote. If that's all, then you've lost. You lost to the Saiyans you despised. Mu Chuan's words immediately broke Frieza's defense. Oh, ha ha ha. Saiyans. Saiyans. If I had known this earlier, I should have let you fend for yourself in the universe. If I hadn't pulled you back from the universe, there wouldn't be this situation now. It's true that I was careless, but a stinky monkey is still a stinky monkey. I've never lost in my life, and you can't beat me. Quote. A destructive ray of light condensed in his hand, and then it became bigger and bigger. In the next second, it became a very terrifying energy ball. He did not hesitate at all and threw it towards Mu Chuan. Mu Chuan also condensed a Qigong wave in his hand. The yellow and purple Qigong waves condensed in his hand. When the destructive ray was about to arrive, the Qigong wave was launched by him. It collided with the destructive ray. At this moment, the universe seemed to dim. All the sounds disappeared, only the two terrifying energy balls collided with each other, although they seemed to be evenly matched. But it was obvious that Mu Chuan had a greater advantage and was slowly eroding the destructive ray. At this time, Mu Chuan still had the leisure to say, Frieza, I admire your fighting talent very much. Why don't you become my subordinate? As long as you are willing to become my subordinate, then I can let you have a more terrifying power and play your due talent. How? Quote. You know, Frieza is a genius of the Frozen Demon clan. A true genius. It's just that he doesn't know how to use his talent at all. If he knows how to use his talent reasonably, then his current combat power is definitely not just this. But he is too proud. So proud that he thinks he doesn't need to practice to have a very terrifying combat power. Because of this, he has wasted his talent. Mu Chuan also has a unique feeling for Frieza. If he can recruit him, then he can not only sign in at all times, but also have a very terrifying subordinate. At least the starting point is high and the upper limit is also high. Why not do it? However, facing Mu Chuan's recruitment, Frieza seemed to be broken and laughed immediately. Ha 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 ha. Too funny, this is really too funny. Don't make me laugh. Are you trying to take this opportunity to sneak attack me? You actually said such a funny joke. Stop kidding. Frieza shook his face, his expression was extremely ferocious, and even blue veins were clearly visible on his face. How could the proud cosmic Emperor Frieza become someone else's subordinate? He would not allow or accept it. This kind of thing would never happen. And Frieza seemed to be stimulated, and the energy of the destructive light became even more terrifying. It was just a purple energy ball, but it turned black in an instant. A black breath filled the air. Frieza had a slight change in his mind. Mu Chuan saw this scene and felt a little regretful. He knew that it was impossible to recruit Frieza. Then there was only one result. Destruction. Although Frieza has amazing talent and great charm, if he is a friendly army, then this kind of person is the best partner. But if he is an enemy, then he cannot stay in this world. As for treating Frieza as a leak, don't joke, Frieza's terrifying talent is scary even to Mu Chuan. Who made him not grow up? He just had foresight, otherwise he would not be able to quickly improve his combat effectiveness and suppress Frieza with absolute strength. Since you are unwilling to surrender, it's a pity. I thought we could still work together to do something big, but now it's impossible. Then I can only ask you to die. As soon as the voice fell, Mu Chuan took a step forward, and the Qigong wave suddenly doubled, covering Frieza's destructive light in an instant. Frieza had no way to resist. The gap in combat effectiveness is too big. Moreover, Frieza was already seriously injured, so he was naturally at a disadvantage. No matter how he struggled, the Qigong wave gradually began to approach him. When the two energy waves mixed together, they flew towards Frieza at once. Instantly, Frieza was covered by the shock wave, and his already extremely broken body was instantly reduced to ashes, and was truly blown up by the energy wave. Not even a trace of slag was left. Mu Chuan would not be stupid enough to leave any trouble behind. Since he was ready to do it, he had to do it quickly. Otherwise, if he was like Sun Wukong's people, it would be really endless. Moreover, it would be better to destroy a terrifying guy like Frieza as soon as possible. Seeing Frieza completely reduced to ashes under the Qigong wave, Mu Chuan still felt unsafe, and carefully felt the surrounding atmosphere, but because the shock wave just now was too fierce, he felt a little chaos around him. There was no way to sense it for a while. The aura in the universe is too chaotic, and the power was too strong when we just faced each other. Now I can't sense the aura at all. But we still can't be careless. He frowned slightly, and his hands condensed a terrifying Qigong wave, which was directly shot towards the surroundings. Qigong waves washed the universe one after another. Suddenly, all the barren planets around seemed to be looted, and huge pits appeared one after another, and most of the barren planets were destroyed. Everything around turned to ashes. The North Kai King, who was far away on the North Kai King planet. When he saw Frieza being destroyed, he jumped up excitedly. After all, he could destroy such a demon. This solved a big problem for the North Galaxy. But he never thought that the Saiyan would do such a crazy thing and directly launch countless Qigong waves around. It was as if there were countless invisible enemies around. The Qigong waves are stronger than each other. Even if a person with slightly stronger strength is affected by this shock wave, he may be instantly reduced to ashes. What about the planet? If no one stops it, it will be destroyed. Asshole. What is this Saiyan doing? Does he want to destroy the entire northern galaxy? Many barren planets have been destroyed by him. Although these barren planets are not very useful, if he continues like this, he will definitely create many meteorite belts. I don't know how many inhabited planets will suffer because of this. It's too chaotic. The North Kai King was so angry that he jumped up and down. So, he didn't care about Mu Chuan's fierceness. What are you doing? Do you know how much impact your current actions will have on the surrounding planets? Faced with the sudden voice of the North Kai King, Mu Chuan didn't feel surprised, because he knew that the North Kai King had been paying attention to the battle between him and Frieza. It was just because he was out of reach that he didn't intervene. Besides, the relationship between the two was not that friendly, so it was impossible for them to contact each other casually. The reason why he spoke now was probably because of what he had done just now, which forced the North King to speak out. Facing the questioning of the North King, Mu Chuan replied calmly, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I have to make sure that Frieza has no chance of survival. That guy is not as easy to deal with as imagined. He must not have any chance of turning over." As for the surrounding planets, Mu Chuan looked around, and the barren planets had long been completely destroyed by him. When he just exploded, everything has turned into meteorites belt. All habitable planets will not be affected, and the rest of the barren planets that have been destroyed, I will make these planets truly destroyed in the universe. I know what I am doing. After saying that, he no longer paid attention to the North King. Then, he started another baptism. After ensuring that everything was foolproof, all the meteorites were truly destroyed, and then he slowly flew to Frieza's spaceship. Frieza's spaceship had been destroyed beyond recognition at this time, but it still had great value. Therefore, he didn't want to abandon it. At present, he still had to stay on Earth for a while, and naturally he had to let the Earth's technology improve slightly, otherwise it would also be very inconvenient for them. For example, if there is no relatively high technology, even maintenance is difficult. Not to mention space travel. Moreover, there are many technologies worth learning from in the Frieza Legion. Whether it is combat suits or nutrient solution, or the detectors that have been criticized, for today's Earth, it is also very difficult to reach high tech. Because of this, he recovered all of them. Then, he began to fly towards the direction of the Earth in a hurry. Because now he is completely exposed to the vacuum of the universe, the speed of flight will naturally not be too fast, and he has recovered many valuable things. The speed is much slower. In fact, the reason why Mu Chuan did it so decisively is that he was afraid that Frieza still had a chance to rise. Even if Gyula was blasted into the sun, he could rise again and become Mecha Gyula. The broken body merged with high-tech chips and finally became Mecha Gyula. The combat power is as high as 10 billion. Because of the fear of such a situation, Mu Chuan directly prevented it from happening at the root, and he must not let such a thing happen. Because of this, he behaved very crazy. Everything is for his own life. Moreover, when he was about to persuade Frieza, he was even considering whether to let Frieza go to the center of the sun to find the high-tech chip in the tomb of the universe of Vegeta star. After all, this may create real mechanical life, and Frieza will have a brand new form of mechanical Frieza at that time. The combat power will definitely increase 10 times. Of course, if Frieza refuses to surrender in the end, he can only be destroyed and he will not have any chance to turn over. Thinking of this, Mu Chuan suddenly had some ideas. Now I also have the blood of the Frozen Demon clan, plus the blood of the Saiyans, it can be said that it is already very terrifying in the Dragon Ball world. But there are people beyond people, there are heavens beyond heavens, and there are countless strong people, not to mention that the current combat power is nothing at all. If I can find the high-tech chip in the tomb of the universe of Vegeta star, can I become a mechanical form? At this moment, this idea suddenly popped up in his mind. After all, he also has the blood of the Frozen Demon clan. Gyula can do it, why can't he? Although he had such an idea, he did not dare to act rashly. First of all, he had to make sure that it was just a form, not a full-body transformation. Otherwise, unless he had no choice, he would not let himself become a half-human, half-ghost. After all, the Saiyan bloodline is already strong enough, and the bloodline of the Frozen Demon clan is just the icing on the cake. If it weren't for Frieza's demonstration, he would not have taken it seriously. Of course, if he could master the gold or black gold form, that would be a real rise. Mu Chuan carried the spoils and arrived on Earth after many hardships. After arriving at the Temple of the Gods, he threw all the spoils aside. His return at this time surprised both the gods and Popo. There was even a hint of shock. In the previous battle, the terrifying aura swept across the entire universe, and even from such a distance, it could be clearly felt. There was also a very terrifying aura. But now, that aura has disappeared, and Mu Chuan has returned safely. Doesn't this mean that he has won? And it is a great victory. You won. That universe emperor? The god asked hesitantly. Mu Chuan nodded. I won by chance. Frieza is indeed very powerful. If I hadn't entered the Spirit Time House to practice this time, I might not be his opponent. He is the Universe Emperor Frieza. After saying this, he didn't explain too much. After all, if you haven't seen Frieza's true strength in person, you can't experience the horror of the Cosmic Emperor. Relying on the aura you feel, you can't accurately judge Frieza's horror. At this time, the voice of King Kai came over. Saiyan, your fighting power is beyond my expectations. I didn't expect that the Cosmic Emperor Frieza was defeated by you. But, although you have solved Frieza now, in the vast universe, the Frozen Demon clan is not just Frieza. He also has a brother and a father. Those two guys are also very terrifying. If they don't feel Frieza for a long time, they may find the Earth at that time. The voice of the North King Kai can also be heard by the gods and Popo. When they heard that the Cosmic Emperor Frieza actually has relatives, they were shocked on the spot. What's more, This race is so terrifying alone, and there are actually two. This is too exaggerated, right? Lord North Kai, is this true? The god asked in horror. Indeed, in the vast universe, the frozen demon clan is sparsely populated, but there are still a few people. The more active one is Frieza, followed by Gyula and King Kurd. Their fighting power is not weaker than Frieza, but Fuli is a famous genius among the frozen demon clan. Because of his amazing talent, his ambition has expanded infinitely, so he wants to rule the universe. It is said that this race was a space pirate in ancient times, and they did all kinds of evil. Because of this bloodline is not only very terrifying, but also extremely evil. As the North Kai King slowly narrated, the god and Popo already knew clearly how terrifying the frozen demon clan was. Unexpectedly, Frieza was just one of them. If there were a few more terrifying monsters like Frieza, would the Earth still exist? The god panicked. On the contrary, Popo couldn't see his facial expression clearly, but looking at his eyes, you can tell that his heart was also not calm. He just didn't show it. Facing the panic of the crowd, Mu Chuan seemed particularly calm. Not to mention that his combat power was very strong, it has now reached 1.7 billion. What's more, he has the ability of foresight, so he naturally knows clearly that Cooler's combat power is not as strong as Frieza's now. According to the original work, Cooler is indeed stronger than Frieza, and it is not a little bit stronger. But now I don't know what the situation is. It seems the time and various things have changed. Frieza's combat power has reached more than 1 billion. What's more, Frieza has been killed by him now. King Kurd and Cooler should not be as strong as Frieza's combat power. If they face them, it will be a lot easier. Mu Chuan suddenly said, "You don't have to worry at all." Tien Shen and Bo Bo looked at Mu Chuan suddenly, as if they wanted to see a little information from his face, but they were disappointed. Mu Chuan did not reveal too much information. Even the North Kai King was silent at this moment. Mu Chuan was really too fierce. The Emperor of the Universe Frieza was killed by him. The North Kai King did not dare to refute what he said easily. What do you mean? In the end, it was Tien Shen who asked first. Although there is not only Frieza in the Frozen Demon clan, Frieza is the only one with talent in the Frozen Demon clan. Gyula and King Kurd have no way to compare with him. Even if those two guys come, they are just sending food. I will take care of them. Mu Chuan said calmly. If he had not become a Super Saiyan before, he would not have dared to boast. But now his combat power has skyrocketed. Not only does he have the blood of the Frozen Demon clan, but he can also become a Super Saiyan. His combat power is super doubled. Facing the Frozen Demon clan that is weaker than Frieza, what is he afraid of? Of course, when King North Kai was about to breathe a sigh of relief, he heard Mu Chuan's voice again. But I have a condition. I can take care of those two guys, but King North Kai, you have to do something for me. King North Kai was stunned for a moment. He did not respond to King North Kai's admiration for a while, but scratched his head, a little confused. What does this Saiyan want to do? Don't want me to cross the line. Quote. King of the North was extremely entangled, not knowing whether to agree or not. But without Mu Chuan, the North Galaxy would really be in trouble. As the King of the North, if the galaxy was destroyed, he would be blamed. Therefore, after thinking about it, he finally answered silently. You can tell me, if it is really difficult, I will not agree to you. Don't worry, I won't make it difficult for you. After hearing that King of the North agreed, Mu Chuan's eyes lit up, and he finally got a little interested. Help me find something. That thing may be in the solar system, or in the sun, a technological chip produced by an advanced civilization, as long as you can find this thing and hand it over to me. Then I will solve King Kurd and Gyula for you, and will not let them destroy any planet in the North Galaxy. Quote. Mu Chuan proposed his conditions and also said what he would do. He did not say that he would immediately come to the rescue once there was a crisis. He just said to deal with Gyula and King Kurd. After all, the universe is vast and boundless, and no one knows what kind of monsters there will be, if a terrifying existence like the god of destruction Beerus appears. King Kai of the North was shocked. If he was asked to deal with it, wouldn't he be finished? Therefore, he was also a little clever. Facing Mu Chuan's request, the North King thought about it for a while. After all, he had to think about whether there was a problem. In the end, he found that it seemed very reasonable and there was no trap as he imagined. Although he didn't know the purpose of this Saiyan. It didn't violate his principles and bottom line, so it was not difficult. What's more, there could be a strong man to stop the frozen demon clan, so why not do it? Therefore, after a little thought, the North King finally agreed. Okay, I agree to your request. Next, I will do my best, but I don't know if I can find it. It doesn't matter. If I can find it, then I will deal with the remaining 2 guys from the frozen demon clan. After getting the reply from the North King, Mu Chuan was inexplicably happy. The North King's ability is not bad. In the entire Northern Galaxy, the North King can explore most places, but it's more difficult. And now he has an accurate goal. With the ability of the North Kai King, it is not that difficult to find it. If he can find the high-tech chip in the tomb of the universe on the Bixta star, he can study it carefully. No matter whether he wants to use it or not, if he has it in his own hands, he will not create a more powerful enemy. Of course, if he does not become a ghost after using it, but just a form. That would be a big profit. But no matter where you start, as long as you can find it, you will make a profit. This is why he made such a request. All crises must be eliminated in the cradle, and all opportunities must be grasped in the race to become the source of improving your combat effectiveness. Since you have the ability to foresee the future, that naturally cannot be wasted. After reaching an agreement, the North Kai King automatically cut off the contact, and then began to search in the solar system, slowly approaching the sun bit by bit. The purpose is to find the high-tech chip that Mu Chuan mentioned as soon as possible, although the North Kai King is also very puzzled as to why this Saiyan knows. As if he was sure. The chip is in the solar system. But he was doubtful in his heart, but he didn't ask. Asking would not get any results. Why bother to hit a snag? Mu Chuan didn't care what King Kai would think, no matter what others would think of him. At present, his only goal was to improve his combat power. Improve his ability to survive in the Dragon Ball world. Even if he now has an ultimate combat power of 1.7 billion, it is still too weak for him. Not to mention the strong from various universes, there are countless monsters in this universe that are stronger than him. Even on the small Earth, there are terrifying existences that make him look sideways, so he can only use his foresight and do everything he can to improve his combat power. Only in this way can he gain a foothold in the Dragon Ball world. After Mu Chuan dealt with everything, he found a place to sit and rest for a while. Because he knew that the Saiyans who entered the Spirit Time House would come out soon. Because they couldn't help, all the Saiyans took turns to enter the Spirit Time House. Even the Saiyans who didn't enter the Spirit Time House completely blocked all information from the outside world. Completely entered the state of cultivation. Even now that Mu Chuan has returned, they seem to have not noticed it, so their efforts can be seen. Because they have already felt the gap. In the past, they could barely help a little, at least the gap in combat power was not too big, but now, they can't even watch. This is completely unacceptable for the proud Saiyans. What's more, it's the person they want to follow. This also makes them practice with all their strength. Time passed quietly. Unknowingly, 3 days passed. At this time, the door of the Spirit Time House was completely opened, and a group of Saiyans exuding primitive breath came out. At this moment, their combat uniforms have long been tattered, their hair has grown a lot, and the breath exuded from their bodies is like entering the giant ape form. Because it surged too much, it was impossible to converge for a while. Feeling the appearance of the Saiyan, Mu Chuan slowly opened his eyes, and a slight smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Not bad. It's worthy of me to choose the Saiyan. After entering the Spirit Time House, each guy has at least 1 million combat power, which means that he can master the mimicry of the Super Saiyan. When the basic combat power reaches the limit, then you can try to become a Super Saiyan. Saiyans. Quote. In this case, how can the entire Saiyan race not rise? Only when the Saiyans truly rise can they find more powerful items for me to improve my strength and conquer the universe for me. Mu Chuan had already thought about the direction a long time ago. Although he was trying his best to improve his combat effectiveness, he did not pay much attention to the Saiyans. But, although the Saiyans have not yet fully grown up, they can only be said to be somewhat powerful in the early stage. But as they gradually grow, they will eventually become a strong man, which can also bring him a lot of help, especially in finding more items to improve their strength. Mu Chuan only needs to concentrate on practicing and improving his combat effectiveness. This is what he planned a long time ago. After coming out of the Spirit Time House, Carl and others instantly felt Mu Chuan's breath, and joy instantly appeared on their faces. Boss, you're back. Quote. Doesn't that mean Frieza has already? At this moment, all the Saiyans gathered around Mu Chuan, each with an extremely excited look on their face. After all, now that their combat power has been improved, they have seen Mu Chuan's return. It can be said that it is double happiness. When they entered the Spirit Time House, they were determined to die if Mu Chuan got into trouble. They must seek revenge on Frieza. No matter how powerful Frieza is, they will never give up. It is precisely because of this determination that they can quickly improve in the Spirit Time House, from a combat power of tens of thousands to a combat power of millions. This is a qualitative leap. Faced with the excited Saiyans, Mu Chuan was not shy. That's right, Frieza has been eliminated. You don't need to worry too much. You just need to do your best to improve your combat power. I will naturally deal with stronger enemies. Quote. As soon as Mu Chuan finished speaking, all the Saiyans present were stunned. Even if they had some guesses, they still felt unbelievable after hearing it. That was Frieza. The Emperor of the Universe Frieza. It was unrealistic to think that he was killed by their boss, but Mu Chuan had no reason to lie to them. Therefore, this matter is true. Suddenly, in addition to being shocked, they inexplicably felt a sense of pride in their hearts. This is their boss, the King of Saiyans. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and support our channel.